right, good evening. I am going to call to order Kalamazoo County Board of Commissioners regular meeting for July 7th, 2026. And our first item is our invocation and reflection, and tonight that will be offered by Commissioner Taylor, Vice Chair Taylor, sorry.
Thank you. Bow our heads. Dear Creator of the universe, we ask that you give us the wisdom and guidance to act in the best interest of all citizens of Kalamazoo County. We ask that you give us the patience to respect each other's point of view and understand that we are trying our best to make this a better place in Kalamazoo for all of our citizens. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Vice Chair. That'll take us to item 3. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Mazer. Commissioner Morales.
Present.
Commissioner Ray.
Present.
Chair Strebbs.
Here.
Vice Chair Taylor.
Here.
Commissioner Wheeler.
Here.
Commissioner DeLuke.
Here.
Commissioner Gisler.
Here.
Vice Chair Pro Tem Hepler.
Here.
9 present.
Thank you, Clerk. We'll go to item 4 is our proclamations. We have item 2026-940, proclamation honoring service of Jeff Patton, CEO from Integrated Services of Kalamazoo. So motion made by motion made by Commissioner Ray, supported by Commissioner Morales. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. We'll go to item 5, communications. We'll be in receipt of item 2026-628. This is the Building and Grounds Department item, 2025 annual report, and also item 26-865, which is the Mothers of Hope Q1 grant report. Are there any other communications received from commissioners? Okay, I have received some communications from community members concerned about the environmental impact of the Safe Roads for All plan with the Road Commission. I've heard also some feedback regarding the appointment of the interim county administrator rule. Is there anything else commissioners want to? Vice Chair.
I have also received numerous comments about the interim administrator role.
Vice Chair Pro Tem.
I do have had comments about the interim county administrator role and the roads.
All right. Seeing nothing further, we will go on to item 6, approval of our minutes. Item 2026-927, request for approval of the June 16th, 26 draft committee of the whole and regular meeting minutes, our June 23rd, 26 special meeting minutes, and our June 30th, 26 special meeting minutes, June 3rd, 26 gun violence prevention ad hoc committee meeting minutes. Motion is made by Commissioner Ray, supported by Commissioner Wheeler. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. We'll go to item 7, approval of the agenda. There's a request for item 2026-830 to be removed from the agenda for a later discussion on July 21st. I'd entertain a motion if I can have support from commissioners for the removal of that item to be presented 21st. Item 2026-830, Sunder Circuit Court. Thank you. Motion is made by Commissioner Morales, supported by Vice Chair Taylor. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. I'd entertain a motion now for the approval of the agenda as amended. Motion is made by Commissioner Wheeler, supported by Vice Chair Pro Tem Hepler. Approval of the agenda as amended. Any further discussion? Excuse me. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. All right. This now brings us to item 8, presentations. So our first is item 2026-819. We have a presentation from the Road Commission of Kalamazoo County. They're coming forth with their 2025 annual report presentation, and we'll welcome forward their Managing Director, Travis Bartholomew. Welcome, Managing Director. You have a button on your mic stand. Deputy Administrator will help you. There we are.
There we go.
Now we can hear you. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Can you hear me now? Good. All right. Well, first of all, thank you for hosting tonight. This is our annual joint meeting between the Road Commission of Kalamazoo County and the County Board of Commissioners. Actually, the Road Commission has a policy, and I believe the County Board does also, that we have an annual joint meeting and review our annual report with the County Board. We also, as part of that policy, have a second meeting that we normally schedule in the fall of the year, and that's with the liaisons from the County Board of the Road Commission. We do have those meetings, but we've actually been having quarterly meetings here in the last year and a half, so we do appreciate that. All right, moving ahead. Just want to start off a little bit of an agenda for tonight's presentation. I'm going to start off with some introductions. We do have some award accomplishments that we want to share. A quick update on our revenue and funding. Of course, service requests, which are key with a lot of public calls for service throughout the county. We'll touch on projects, and then a part of projects, we also want to touch on our Safe Streets for All safety grant project. And I'm going to actually turn to our county engineer, Ryan Minkus, for that portion of the presentation. So I'm going to start off with the annual report. I believe all the commissioners have a copy at their desks. I think we got a copy distributed before the meeting. You good?
Yeah. Next slide.
Gotcha. All right. First of all, I want to take a second to compliment our team that puts this annual report together. So as you can see, this is very well organized, a very detailed report. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it tonight because we want to spend some time to talk about our safety grant and our safety projects that we have planned for the next 4 years. So, but I do want to hit on some highlights as we go through the annual report, and then I'll leave it to your reading at your leisure. You advance the slide.
Yeah, say next slide.
Oh, next slide. Oh. The other way? Yeah, it went backwards.
Where are you at? You want
One more. One more. Nope,
You want to
keep
go?
going. Keep going.
Next slide.
There we go.
Okay.
So I can just say it. And then
Yeah, let's say next slide.
Okay. All right.
Next slide, please.
Okay. Maybe I didn't say please. All right. Apologize. All right. So I want to start off with some introductions. Our board is here tonight. So to start off with them, we have our chair, Commissioner Plowski. who's here tonight in the front row. Commissioner Plowski's our liaison to the county board. He's also liaison to Brady, Kalamazoo, and Texas Township. We also have our vice chair, Commissioner Stayhauer, here tonight. Also in the front row, he is the liaison to Comstock, Oshtemo, and Ross Townships, and he also serves on the Parks and Recreation Commission. And then in the center is Commissioner Kennedy. She's also here tonight. She serves as a liaison currently to Waukesha, Prairie Ronde, and Pavilion, which probably looks a little different in your slide. We made some recent adjustments here. She also fills in for the other commissioners on various boards and councils as needed. And then we have Commissioner Thompson, which don't see him here tonight. He serves as liaison for Climax Schoolcraft in Cooper. He also serves on the Board of Public Works. And then Commissioner Davis, which I don't think is here tonight either. He serves as liaison to Alamo, Charleston, and Richland Townships, and he serves on the Kalamazoo County Environmental Health and Advisory Council. Also, I just wanted to quick share the Road Commission of Kalamazoo County currently staffs 60 employees, of which 30 of them are our road maintenance operators, our team that's out in the field. We have 3 mechanics, 7 in our engineering team, 3 in finance, and then we also have our superintendents and our administrative staff. Next slide, please. All right, just moving into some awards. I'm going to start off with this first SS4A action plan. It's really the Transportation Safety Action Plan. It was a plan that we worked with one of our consultants and also some feedback from our residents as part of a survey back in 2023 to identify areas for improvement. This award was through the American Council of Engineering Companies for that plan. This plan was also used for our grant application for our Safe Streets for All program. Next is the Sprinkle Road Project. That is from the American Paving Association of Michigan for a project on Sprinkle Road that we completed last year in 2025, and that was from Business Loop 94 to the Kalamazoo River Bridge. And then the third one down, the Davis Olmsted Stream Restoration. So that's an American Public Works Association award we received. This actually was a collaborative project with us and the drain office. Our part of that project was a culvert replacement, and the drain office was doing some improvements to the stream itself. And then the last one on this slide is through the County Road Association. And these are for on-site project informational meetings. These are meetings that the Road Commission hosts. We go out to the public on various projects that are over $1 million or more. And we host the meeting and give updates and take questions and concerns from the residents and business owners. So that's a award we received through CRA for excellence in communication. Next slide, please. So these 3 awards, very similar. These are all through our new facility. We actually moved in March of 2024, and we continue to receive awards for that project. And really, these are all innovative type awards. I think what's key here is we won the branch award for the APWA, but we also received the state level award. So, and then also we received an award from CRA for our innovation with our new facility. Next slide, please. So I apologize, it's all about the awards, but there just was a lot of them in this year, so we just wanted to share. This one also, or both of these actually, are through the County Road Association. The first one to your left is our open house that we hosted for public officials last year. Had a decent turnout, but it was an opportunity for folks to come in and talk to our staff on various topics and subjects. We had different stations set up, so we thought it was very successful. And then the last one was also through the County Road Association. an award for excellence in communications. And this is where our team actually goes live on Zoom and Facebook. And it gives the public opportunities to talk to our team. Just as a couple examples, we had one program where it was Ask Our Engineer. So you could ask our engineer any questions you wanted. And we had another one, I think shortly thereafter that, Ask a Permit Agent. So we thought that was a very successful program. We actually are continuing it into 2026. Next slide, please. All right, I just want to touch briefly on funding. So the Road Commission of Kalamazoo County's main source of funding is Michigan Transportation Fund, which is we call MTF. It's our most consistent source of funding. It's basically vehicle registration and gas tax. That's been pretty consistent. We haven't seen a significant increase in our MTF here in the last few years. The next area, federal funding, this is where we typically receive grants for individual type projects on our primary road system. No guarantees. These are competitive type grants, but we typically receive somewhere between $3 and $5 million a year towards these types of projects. And again, these are specific to projects, and they're not just operating dollars. And this is what's a great partnership. This next item are township contributions. This is where our townships contribute to our local road system. So the Road Commission has a program, a policy where our board sets aside participation fund dollars towards projects. Those dollars are available in those townships if the townships match them. And as you can see, there's quite a contribution there. They actually overmatch our dollars. So we appreciate that contribution and partnership. The SS4A, Safe Streets for All grant, that's a $25 million grant that we just recently received. It's a 5-year grant. We're actually a year into the program and haven't started any work yet. So hope to get that going here shortly and get it. We have to have it wrapped up here in the next 4 years. And then the last item of funding is new to the Road Commission. It's called the Neighborhood Road Fund. I'm sure many of you have probably heard of it. We're still learning about it ourselves. Next slide, please. It went into effect last October. And actually the dollars for this funding started getting collected as of January 1st. So actually the Neighborhood Road Fund money comes from two sources. It comes from the corporate income tax, and it also comes from a new wholesale tax on marijuana. The corporate income tax is anticipated to generate $688 million per year. The wholesale tax on marijuana is estimated at 420. As you can see through this chart, I won't spend a lot of time, but as it flows down to the counties, once all the off the tops come off, we're looking at 52% of the balance. What that means to Kalamazoo County, we think, was a little over $8 million a year. So it was a pretty significant increase. But yet we haven't seen a penny of it yet. We anticipate that we hopefully will see something yet this year, but more so for next year. But we're also starting to learn that may be reduced on the wholesale marijuana tax side as those dollars just aren't flowing in as expected. So it's going to be a tough one to budget for 2027. Next slide, please. Service requests. This is an area I'm sure the county board gets a lot of calls. Obviously, we get a lot of calls. So a little over 6,300 in 2025 that we receive from residents. These are calls on the phone or service requests that come in by email or through our website. If you look at the list, I know it's hard to see on the screen, but the number one service request that we receive as a road commission is trees. A little over 1,700 calls for service for trees in 2025. That's double of anything else that we receive. The closest is winter maintenance at 900. So it's very significant for us. I also went back and looked at 2024, we received 5,700 service requests, so it is growing a little. And of those, trees were number one at 1,600. So those are also growing. Next slide, please. So breaking that down, you can see we have our 15 townships outlined here. top 5 service requests by township. Again, I know difficult to read, but what I want to point out is all the townships shaded in green have the same top service request, and it's trees. The one on the bottom right, Waukesha Township, actually trees were number 3 down there. Gravel roads were number 1. Next slide, please. Before I move on, I just wanted to mention just kind of a sense of the amount of trees the road commission handles. A lot of these after hours, over this last week and through the holiday weekend, we responded to over 170 calls for trees in the road. So you can guess our team pretty much worked day and night all the way in through the 4th of July. So we definitely have some work to do on trees. All right, switching gears, winter maintenance. So a bar chart here just kind of showing our history with winter maintenance operations. Again, I know it's difficult to read, but in a typical year, the road commission spends a little over $2 million on winter maintenance. We typically budget about 2.2 million. And you can see it's a crapshoot. It's all over the place, but 2025 in particular is significantly high. And I anticipate 2026 will be also, because the 2025 number actually ended December 31st of 25. So we had quite a bit of winter here in 26 already. So we're really heavy in the winter maintenance, probably for at least a 2-year cycle. But if you look down at the bottom, we are fortunate salt prices have been pretty consistent. I know a lot of agencies struggled receiving salt in the last winter. Fortunately, the road commission was well equipped with quite the amount of storage in our building, so we didn't experience that. But I do anticipate salt to go up for the upcoming season. And then salt and salt sand prices also typically follow that trend. So they're significantly higher with our usage in 2025. Next slide, please. All right, just some summaries here, and these come right out of the annual report. The road commission in 2025 managed a little over 200 projects in total. Of those, 6 miles were on our primary road system for paving, which is rather light. Typical year for us is 10 miles or more. On the local road system, we paved 14 miles, which is pretty common. And if we switch over to the right, you see there's 11 miles of chip seal completed on primary roads. That's extremely light. We just didn't have the funding to support our primary road improvement projects and preservation projects last year. A typical year on primary road chip seal is 60 miles. Again, on the local side, we did 119 miles of chip seal, and then we also re-graveled 5 miles of local roads. Next slide, please. All right, I'm just going to jump ahead to 2026 just for a second, highlight just a couple projects we're currently working on. Comstock Avenue and Comstock Township. This is a project that we started here just a few weeks back, so it's under construction. The road is closed. The limits are from Sprinkle Road to River Street. It's a resurfacing project, quite a bit of storm sewer improvements in this area, curb and gutter replacements. Pretty significant project. It's a very old road. Basically taking it down and doing some major renovations to it. So $2.73 million we're spending on that project. Next slide, please. The next slide is in Oshtemo Township, or the next project. That's on 9th Street from KL Avenue to M43. I'm sure a lot of us in this room remember when that road didn't even exist, right? So it's a newer road. It's actually the 3rd time it's been surfaced since it was new. So it's just over a mile of road, primarily just resurfacing, and there's some improvements at the sidewalks. And it's a little over $1 million, $1.4 million for that project. Next slide, please. And then the third project I wanted to highlight, this is more of a collaborative effort between the Road Commission and Kalamazoo County Parks. This is part of the Parks Department's shared use path that's working its way to Augusta. So we assist in partnering with that project. That project continues, and project cost for that is $1.5 million for the next phase. Next slide, please. All right, and this is just a page out of our 5-year plan. This is our 2026 year. for primary road capital improvement projects. So this is the entire list of projects. And again, difficult to read, but of the 22 projects that are listed here, 17 of those projects are funded by the SS4A grant. There's only 5 that are not. So it's a very significant part of our future. As I mentioned earlier, we've been very light on the primary road projects in recent years. This $25 million grant allows us opportunity to hopefully play some catch up here in the next few years. And then also I mentioned the neighborhood road fund money that if and when it does come, which we anticipate could be next year, could help assist on our primary road system. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan Minkus, our county engineer, for the next portion. But before I do, is there any questions on what I shared and what's related to the annual report before we get into the SS4A project?
I see Vice Chair Taylor and then Commissioner Gisler. Vice Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think the neighborhood road funding that came through the road bill package from last year's State House, it's certainly, I talked to a lot of township officials that, were kind of under the illusion, and most of the general public was under the illusion that those dollars were immediate. It's taken some years, and I think they overestimated the cannabis tax portion of that. But it takes a couple of maybe a year or so for those actual dollar collections to hit your bank account. Number one, is there an anticipated date? Are we still expecting to have those dollars hit us before the end of 2026, or is this looking like it's going to be a 2027 allocation?
We're understanding today that we will start seeing both corporate income tax and wholesale marijuana tax dollars yet this year. But nobody will give us a date, so we're thinking it's probably going to be after construction season.
Okay.
Probably October.
So it really doesn't allow any sort of flexibility in the 2026 budget. It's more of anticipation for the 2027 budget cycle.
That's correct.
Then, an $8 million roughly, it'll probably close to that. I think they've probably a few $100,000 over on the cannabis tax, but that represents roughly about a 24-25% increase in your annual revenue. Are there anticipations specifically with townships? I really appreciate the participating grant structure that you use to try to match townships dollar for dollar. It allows townships to be able to do the projects they want. With the budget shortfalls at the state level, hopefully it's relatively small, but I think most townships are going to experience a decrease in revenue as it relates to the revenue sharing. Are you guys anticipating increasing your PAR grant value, decreasing the percentage, or just using that $8 million basically in years 1 to play catch up on the primary road sort of situation?
Sure. Excellent question. Thanks, Commissioner Taylor. I'm going to speak for the board a little bit because we haven't really gone through budget this year, but we anticipated receiving dollars that would be available for 2026 that we didn't receive. So we've had some of these discussions internally and with our board. We feel that we need to continue the current program that we have with our townships, with our participation fund program. But these new neighborhood road fund dollars are not required to be matched by an outside source. And that's always been a challenge with our road commission is any money we spend on local roads, somebody has to match it for us to be able to use it. So this gives us an opportunity to spend dollars without a match. And our initial direction was to use those NRF dollars on a portion of them on local roads without a required match and continue the current program. So if we continue the current program as it is today, that's typically around $7-8 million a year total. We anticipated taking another $2.5 million and adding it to it and not requiring any match from the townships.
That makes me happy because I know the townships are going to face ever and ever shorter, budget shortfalls. And I think that helps them put in the position to try to do the infrastructure needs that they're going to need in a township. I'm pleased to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good wrap up of some pretty complicated stuff, and I want to do two things. One, I want to compliment you again on the annual report, the printed volume. I used to work in the pharmaceutical business and produce things like this for physicians and hospitals and whatever. You do a super job. This is an excellent product that you turn out. The other thing is, just I noticed only one of the slides you had showed a white arrow in the road somewhere. What do those white arrows mean? I drive past them frequently, and I'm not sure what their significance is. Maybe you aren't even putting them down. Maybe it's kids with spray cans or something.
Yeah, and maybe our county engineer can help answer that question. 'Cause I didn't catch what that, if it was something that was pavement marking or somebody's spray paint. Oh, Ryan says it's a reference for survey.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. Thank you. Now you know.
Yeah, I'm just going to ask a couple on the PAR funds as well. So some of the townships have dedicated millages or bonds that are helping to fund infrastructure. How will that equate then when you have funds that don't require a match for the communities who've asked the voters to make a commitment for infrastructure support? Will they then just be locally supporting it through their taxpayers, and then communities that haven't made that investment will get more of the unmatched funds? Or how will you make that equitable spread to the funds?
Right. To answer your question, Commissioner Strebs, our goal was to make it fair and equitable across the board. We were simply going to take the dollars that were available. Let's just say it was $2.5 million is kind of our starting point. And we were going to divide it up amongst the 15 townships based on road miles, local road miles exclusively. So we felt that was the most fair and equitable way to do it.
Thank you for that. Let's see, I had another. The overmatch on the PAR funds, was there a requirement for overmatch, or was it a dollar for dollar requirement, and then some had more resources they wanted to contribute towards projects, or is there a required overmatch?
Yeah. So there is not a required overmatch. So just to give you a little bit of history, the Road Commission in recent years, has contributed about $2.5 million to the local road participation fund. And the townships would receive our dollars through a distribution formula, very similar to road miles, but it included population and percent of urban miles, which is how we receive our MTF. Those dollars are available to be used on local roads in the townships if the townships match those dollars. All of our townships currently match all those dollars. So around numbers, we're already spending $5 million on local roads. And then we have townships with special assessments and millages, and some that just simply overspend out of general fund. Those are strictly their dollars they're putting towards local roads in their townships that we manage the work.
Yeah, your specs and design and review and so forth to collaborate.
Correct.
Okay. And then I have other questions that are on the Safe Streets for All, but is that we want to...
Yeah, if we could get through that, and then we'll take questions on that.
Okay, so we want to hear from the engineer.
County Engineer Ryan Minkus.
Excellent. Unless any other commissioners had questions on the annual report. Okay. Welcome, Mr. Minkus.
Thank you. Next slide, please. I am Ryan Minkus, County Engineer with the Road Commission of Kalamazoo County, here to talk to you guys about our Safe Streets for All initiative. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. There it is. So overall, this previous slide, there we go. Getting ahead of myself. So overall, this process started for us back in 2022 when the RCKC moved forward with establishing a safety action plan, looking at the entire county and trying to look at where we might need to focus for safety concerns. Ultimately, it was trying to partner up and align with the national goal of towards zero deaths, which is the goal of eliminating deaths and injuries on our road system. Fortunately, the Federal Highway has had funding available for implementing safety improvements like this. And in 2023, we applied for a grant through the Safe Streets for All initiative. And at the time we were awarded this $25 million grant, it was the largest award in the state of Michigan through this funding program. The grant does require match dollars, so our total project cost we're projecting right now is $32 million for this program. Next slide, please. It's going the wrong way. There we go. So I mentioned the safety action plan, and Travis had mentioned it as well. So to start this process, we started looking at the historical crash data throughout the whole county. And in order to make sure we weren't missing anything during this process, we opened up a survey to allow residents an opportunity to share with us where they would have concerns about safety on our road network. We would then look and review that data, compare it to the primary source we were using, the crash data, to develop the safety action plan. So once we had the plan, we started looking at what were the trends we could see from the data we looked at, right? And one of the good things we saw is that our total crashes were lower than the statewide average and declining. So that's a good news. But what we did see is the deaths and injuries were higher than the statewide average and increasing. So that was concerning to us. And when we dove into that further, we found that 50%, so the majority of these deaths and injuries, were happening when cars left the traveled surface of the roadway. Next slide, please.
Can I just ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
Isn't it defined within the action plan that the crashes leaving the lane of travel includes leaving the side of the road, but also crossing into the other lane of traffic as well?
That is correct. It's
so a lane
departing
departures
lane either way across the center line or off the side.
Thank you.
So taking that data, we decided to look at, we apply for many safety grants through the state, which also use federal funds. And whenever we apply for a grant, we take a step back and look at what the criteria is they're scoring or grading it on to try to make sure we can put in the most competitive application we can. In this instance, since a majority of our deaths and injuries were happening on the lane departures, we decided to focus on those crash types throughout the county to propose an implementation grant. So our safety action plan had come up with summaries and has over 200 locations that it says we should be watching for safety issues on that could have been eligible for this. But again, sorting through that list as staff, we said, these roads we submitted for the plan were the best candidates we had for what we were going for the funding. So this map kind of shows a breakdown of the different types of projects. So the work types we identified for this program were pavement marking, grinding rumble strips, signing improvements, widening shoulders. There will be some reconstruction, and then roadside hazard elimination or clear zone improvements, which we'll get into some more detail here later. The reconstruct and widening projects total 11 miles of our proposed 130 miles. So not a major portion of the work, but still beneficial to the community. And we also identified 7 intersections that did not have left turn lanes, where adding the left turn lanes would provide a safety benefit within the rest of the project we were looking at. Next slide, please. So the rumble strips here again, we are looking to do 130 miles center line on 130 miles in the program. We did, when we were putting together our application, got community feedback specifically from the Kalamazoo Bicycle Club with concerns about shoulder line rumble strips and the impacts that would have on the safety of bicyclists. So we went back and reviewed the RCKC non-motorized routes map. We had identified routes throughout the county that we felt it was adequate, and we were trying to accommodate the best we could bike routes. And when we reviewed that, we saw that if we removed those routes, we could do 74 miles of edgeline rumble strips and then eliminate them from the bike routes to alleviate the concerns from the bicycling community. Our estimation is that this portion of the project is going to cost about $1 million. Next slide, please. I want to take a second here to speak about rumble strips because they are not new to us at the Road Commission. We have done projects with rumble strips and combined with other safety treatments like we're proposing for this program. Two roads that we did this on were Sprinkle Road and 12th Street, south of Parkview. With those combination of safety treatments, when we looked at a pre-construction and post-construction crash data, we have realized a 72% reduction in fatalities and serious injuries on those roads and an overall crash reduction of 42%. So we're very pleased with how these treatments are working throughout the county. And by our estimation, based on what we were seeing for trends on those roads, there were 17 fewer fatalities or serious injuries on those roads since we completed the projects. Next slide, please.
Vice Chair has a question.
Sorry, really quick on the rumble strips. How long was the data that you used to do that, the 72% or the 27% reduction? Was that over a 3-year period or 1-year period?
So typically when we are looking at crash data, it's a 5-year period. So I know the 12th Street project was constructed back in 2013. So we've had a few years afterwards to have that after data.
Okay, so you have enough.
Yeah, and the first Sprinkle Road project we did was 2015. So it's been at least we have a 10-year after period.
Okay, thank you.
I have a couple questions on rumble strips as well.
Sure.
With that significant reduction in the number of vehicle accidents and fatalities, do we have any other intervention that creates such a significant decrease in accidents and fatalities?
Well, can we go back to the previous slide, please? I think that's the one we were looking at. So typically each treatment you applies a certain percentage reduction in the type of crashes. So the general and national accepted range for rumble strips alone is around 30, 35, maybe 40%. So again, when we combine additional treatment types with it, that's how we arrived at the 72%, because there were other safety enhancements we did on these projects like we're proposing here with the SS4A.
Related to rumble strips along the bikeways,
Yes.
Can you speak to how much of the bikeways have significant paved shoulder for bikers to travel within? And the rumble strips, here I see an example where it's placed within the white line. Is it on the exterior or outside of the white line? Is there a design mechanism and so that bikeways can have rumble strips as well as significant paved space for bikes?
Yes, great questions. So the routes that we identified on our non-motorized route map, we tried to pick roads and identify roads that had shoulders that to accommodate the non-motorized users already. If they didn't, we understand that there was some room, but when we do a project, we're going to come in and widen the shoulder to make sure that can be accommodated. But that was one of the key features when we were trying to identify these routes, was looking at traffic volumes and shoulder availability. This particular picture is a little deceiving. That's actually in concrete. And this is on Sprinkle Road. So on Sprinkle Road, we put the rumble strips in concrete down the middle of the road and on the edge. So on 12th Street is just in the asphalt. With the rumbles, the guidance, we're grateful to the Kalamazoo Bicycle Club as well. They provided us some national guidance on how to design rumble strips to lessen the impact to bicycles, right? Yeah, what gaps and depth and width and where they're located on the shoulder. So we're trying to balance a couple things and understanding that people still do live on these roads. And so if we get the rumble strips too close to where people are driving all the time, the people that live there are going to have to deal with that noise of the rumbles. So we're still a little bit ahead here. We're not in design yet, so we're still working out where that's going to be. But we are talking about placing those rumble strips on the outside edge of the white line. So it won't be in the white line, so it gives a little bit of grace if somebody's not quite paying attention, but we'll definitely get their attention if they start to go off the road. And even in having those conversations with the bicycle club, they said it's better to not have them there from their perspective. So that's why we opted to eliminate those on those routes.
Thank you.
Next slide, please. So the clear zone improvements. The clear zone is a portion of the roadway that is supposed to be designed free of objects to allow motorists an opportunity to recover should they leave the roadway. In this graphic, that includes the portion of the shoulder, that foreslope that goes down to the ditch, and could include part of the back slope of the ditch as well. Next slide, please. So again, when we went back and looked at this high percentage of our deaths and injuries on the county are due to lane departures, when we dove into those crashes, 60% of those involve trees.
So I have some questions there as well. So I went through and I read the entire action plan. And I did not look at the crash data analysis at the intersections. But in all of the segments of the road, there are 11 slated for clear zone. Over a 5-year period, there were 3 serious or fatal accidents that involved trees in those roadways where clear cutting was going to occur. And 2 of those accidents also included either an OWI of some sort, the person was intoxicated in some manner, and conditions were wet. So how do you arrive at 60% of fatal accidents involving trees when the action plan identified just 3?
So it is looking at all the data and coming up with a countywide average, right? So this is data specific to us. So we're confident in the numbers that came through and saying that of those crashes, when we went back and looked at it, 60% of those involved a tree in some way, shape. In the crash report, it said there was a tree involved with the crash. So when we were looking at the data, that's what it told us, is that this was a concern and something we should look at.
So are those in areas designed for clear cutting or in intersections that involved trees?
If for the lane departures, typically look at segments of road, right? Not at intersections. So that is where we're focusing the clear zone improvements, is on the straight segments of road. There would be additional clearing at intersections as well if we need to improve sight distance and that sort of thing. So there would still be clearing happening at the intersections.
So there were just roughly 5 fatal accidents on straight segment of road?
That would have involved trees, yes. So it's important to note that when we see that this can happen, and with our fatality rate, right, that's a high number, that there are other crashes that are lane departures, but may not have had the injury or death yet, right? So this program is looking to be as a more proactive approach to safety than a reactive approach to safety. So if we look at, and again, that's how we selected some of the routes, was looking at the crash trends on those routes and saying there are lane departures. So if we continue the trend that we're seeing with our numbers and the averages, that over time we're going to see more fatalities and deaths and injuries on these routes if we continue to leave the trees where they are and the proximity they are to the road.
So what we're really seeing here then is 60% of lane departure accidents involve trees, but not 60% of all the fatal accidents.
No, that is saying 60% of the fatals involve trees.
Yeah, but so that's an extrapolated average and not an actual count, because you really only had 3 listed in your report.
Yes.
Okay, it's extrapolated. Thank you.
Next slide, please. So our original proposal was to remove trees within the right-of-way. That right-of-way is 66 feet wide, typically 33 feet on either side of the roadway. And approximately, we came up with an approximation of that would number 8,000 trees with a cost of the project of about $8 million. As at our last board meeting, we reported to the board as staff that we had gone back and reviewed national guidance, come back with some different recommendations. And at this time, we're proposing to preserve the outermost 5 feet on both sides of the right-of-way. And by our estimation, that would reduce the number of trees removed in half to 4,000. So in addition to providing a safety benefit, there are other benefits that could be realized from the tree removals. So next slide, please.
I'm going to ask some questions there as well. So in the refining down the size of the clear zone
Yes.
by 5 feet, how do you come to the estimate that reduces the number of trees to be destroyed by half?
Yeah, it's interesting. I do have a graphic that'll help illustrate that later. I did go out and review a few sites that residents had called in and had concerns about, right? So there was one on Sprinkle Road that I went out. The property had 18 trees marked for removal with our initial plan. With the revised measurement, that was taken down to 4. So what we've found when we've done this review is that a majority of these trees are on that outer portion of the right-of-way where historically the road commissions, not just us, haven't cleared all the way out that far ever, right? So that's where a majority of the trees are. And again, there's an image I have later that'll help better represent that. But that by our estimation on what we were seeing and what we went out and measured some projects and counted the trees, that was our estimation on what we're going to reduce the tree removal count by.
And then, so the tree removal costs about $8 million. The rumble strip cost proposed in the design is about $1 million. Why are we spending so much money on tree removal compared to rumble strips when rumble strips are identified as so effective at reducing accidents, particularly the fatal accidents, and the goal is to reduce those? But we had 3 fatal crashes in clear zones identified involving trees.
Right. And I want to reiterate again that improvement on the reduction in deaths and injuries was a combined of all the safety treatments, right? So if we only did rumble strips, we'd probably only see half of what we saw there is what the statistics would tell us. That combining things like we do on those safety projects with removing hazards in the right-of-way, we realize that 70% reduction in those numbers. So it is kind of a cumulative effect, and just saying doing the rumble strips, we're going to get half of what we would have planned on it with doing it with the other treatments. So next slide, please. So I want to kind of walk through an example project here, 32nd, 33rd Street from M96 to DE Avenue. Next slide, please. So in this stretch of road, when we were reviewing crashes, we do see that there are a number that happen in crashes that happen that are tree related, and they do result in an increased number of injuries and fatalities. So this stretch of road is one in particular. I know we've had comments from residents on with concerns about the number of tree removals. Next slide, please.
Does that scope of road have a rumble strip?
No, none of the roads that we're talking, it will, with the project, yes, it does not now. So this is a kind of a street view of 32nd, 33rd Street, kind of highlighting the 33-foot right-of-way. Next slide, please. So this is the left side of that picture. And so the stake that's there, because of our initial proposal, was a 33-foot removal. That stake is at 33 feet. And this slide was shown to represent that we were proposing that if a tree trunk touches any portion of that 33-foot line, we would not remove it. So that is going to hold true when we move that 5 feet further in. So if you have an old growth tree that's 2-3 feet in diameter and the back side of that trunk is touching that line, that tree is staying. So we are trying to help accommodate some of the more old growth trees that are out there and providing more benefit to the residents, benefit of the doubt, I should say, to the residents by preserving some of the trees. So next slide, please. And this kind of illustrates what you were asking about, Commissioner Stubbs, about the reduction and cutting the tree volume in half. So this, again, the stake and the box was illustrating what the removals were planned with the 33-foot. You could take about half of that box. So the right half of the box would stay, and that's where the trees would remain. And you can see like the first 10 feet off the road, there aren't trees there. So a bulk of these trees we're talking about are in that outside portion of the right of way. Next slide, please. So with our current progress, we're still working through preliminary design. We're still getting permits and reviews done through agencies. With our proposed revision to the removals, we're also looking at the tree survey and doing what we can to revise that. We are asking residents not to mark up any trees that are marked up right now because it'll make our job easier if we can see all the marks when we go back out to cover stuff up. But yes, tree survey is still being done. Once we get through an approval for the preliminary design phase, we can move into final design and then finally construction. Next slide.
Thank you. So I have another question on tree survey. I
Yeah.
provided a tool I received from Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition that is a tree assessment tool. It's an example of a tree assessment tool for field assessment, but also allows, among safety considerations, also climate, habitat, and cultural significance for identified trees. And I wonder, how can engineering engage in a more dynamic process to evaluate the value of a tree before it's simply just arbitrarily identified with, a parameter, a distance from the side of the road. For example, ones that have major cultural significance, they identify community or place or heritage. What is the value and assessment done for that, for trees?
Yeah, that's a fair question. So a lot of what we do with the tree process, we do have to do historical research, right? And for us in the process we use, most of the time that focuses on buildings. And if there's significant historical reasons for the building to be historical, other parts of the property can be considered. So on most of the projects we do, that's where any sort of historical influence or consideration comes into play, is what the property itself holds or has value to the community.
Have you seen the tool that I was able to share with members of your board?
I don't recall if I had seen that yet. I'm happy to review it.
Okay, that would be wonderful. I think it's worth dialogue on. Thank you.
So talk about the timeline. I've spoken to a number of residents over the past week. I took the last week and was calling residents who attended our meeting on June 16th, but could not on June 30th, and was updating them with our revised proposal. And many of them were not aware of the timeline for this project. And as Travis mentioned, it's a multi-year staged process. So I want to make it clear that not all the trees are coming down at the same time. There's a plan for 3 years of tree removal so that we're not impacting the community in such a mass way with projects, just like we try to manage projects and not impact commutes for people in such a drastic manner. So there is time and for conversations with residents through this approach. But yes, over what we have shown here is 4 years of tree removals is currently in the plan. Next slide, please. So with what's next, we are awaiting for our final clearances from Federal Highway and other agencies. Once they give us that, we can move into design. We could start preparing, once we have that, we could start preparing some bid documents for the rumble strips, painting, and tree removals. The design, we can't start design until we get through preliminary design. So we're waiting to start that. We originally, with our schedule, when this slide deck was prepared, we're planning on sending out tree letters in July to residents. That might be pushed back to August or September right now, because we're still working to identify those trees specifically. But again, still hopeful we can get rumble strips and pavement marking down here before the end of the season. And tree removals would not start before October of this year. And then further, we'd look to do an HMA bid for the construction in the future years. Next slide, please. Just want to remind everybody, if you'd like to stay informed and up to date with some of what RCKC is doing, we have a tool, RCKC Connect. You can sign up for alerts. Next slide, please. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Good. Other commissioners? Commissioner Wheeler?
Thank you, Chair. I just had one question about the phasing. At any point throughout the phasing, do you guys reevaluate the plan? I know that you have to get approvals from the federal government.
As far as implementation, scope, or it is a process, right? So, and even as part of it, Federal Highway outlined that if we are reviewing a project and the road condition has deteriorated past what we had originally planned and it can no longer accept rumble strips, those roads would be eligible to be repaved, right? So with the example of us reducing tree removals in half, so that 8 million would come down to about 4 million, that 4 million would be available to us to potentially use for roads that the pavement has gotten in worse condition since we first applied for the grant.
I have a few more for you. So I just want to identify a couple of things that were not highlighted, were in the action plan. About a third of all accidents involved impaired driving, where people are under the influence primarily of alcohol. A third of them involve distracted driving. 70% of accidents involve illegal speed. And so these are, again, sort of behavioral, driving behavior issues. And most of them, as you've identified, involve those lane departures, a third of all accidents. The most dangerous segment on the KCRC network is Drake Road to KL. I did not see really much in the action plan that identifies additional efforts that are being made on that segment of the road. If it's the most dangerous, why is not more of the funding targeting that road segment?
Yeah, at least for right now, with what we saw with data from the action plan, right, the 50% of the deaths and injuries were happening from lane departures, and those were primarily happening in rural county, not the urban portion. So that's why we decided to focus this grant on the rural portion of the county.
Commissioner Morales?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your presentation. How you doing? You all right?
Yeah.
All right. Wonderful.
Thanks.
So you just mentioned that a portion of the money could be used to repave roads for other projects. Is the portion of that money eligible to remove other tree projects from like that the road commission can cover, like from storms or, you know, folks who couldn't get their trees removed? Could it be used for those purposes as well?
It was made very clear to us that we are not to use this money for maintenance activities. It has to be used for specific safety improvements. So like the storm work would be more on our maintenance side of things. So that money would not be eligible for storm cleanup. And the list of roads we submitted would require an amendment if we wanted to change the roads we had in our plan with Federal Highway. So while we can change a treatment type within a road that's already in the plan, we would have to go through an amendment process to add roads to it. And again, submitting the amendment doesn't guarantee it's going to be approved. That just means it would be reviewed by Federal Highway.
But y'all are willing to submit amendments as needed?
If it
and then
sense, yes.
Of the 4,000, could there be additional cuts in that you don't actually need? Because you're saying over a 3-year period, so that's what 1,000-something trees a year arbitrarily. I know I got numbers people in here that'll be fussing, but yeah. So over 3 years, about 1,000+ trees. Within those thousands, as you start cutting, are you just going to cut flat the thousands that you marked, or if there are some that just don't need to be cut down, are you willing to not cut them? Because I understand you need to soak up a grant. Nobody wants to send grant money back. I mean, we're dealing with that with ARPA funds right now, trying to exhaust them. But I don't want a tree to be cut just because we have to soak up. Well, y'all have. Let me be clear to the audience. We don't have control over what they do. We might have a little influence. The only influence we have is their reappointment. So I want to be clear. I see a lot of folks in here that when we make decisions on this board, we take our community into consideration first, just as our employees are our priority. So I just want to make that clear. But back to you, as far as if you don't need to cut 4,000, what does that look like?
That's our estimation right now, right? So I don't think we'll go over that number. Our hope is that we'll be under. As I shared at our last board meeting, the clear zone requirements are based on speed and volume. So not all these roads, that 17 or the 28-foot measurement I mentioned is based on 55-mile-an-hour speed. So if a road has a different speed limit, essentially 55 and 45 and 50, which are most of these roads, 45 and 50 are grouped into a category and 55 is another category looking at the measurement. Our team is meeting this week to talk about what it's going to look like for the 45 and 50 mile an hour roads. So there is opportunity to potentially pull that further in from the right of way on some roads.
Last question. And then as we talk about speed, I mean, I go to work every day on Portage Road and I see a radar hitting me. Is that our county that are on those roads, county sheriff, or is that a different type of government police?
It would depend sort of on the jurisdiction. I'm not sure which part of Portage Road, but it could be city police, it could be the sheriff. The sheriff can be anywhere. But yeah.
And so I'm asking that because like we have smiley faces on radars. Like, do you have that? I haven't been pretty much out to city limits unless I'm just out in another, like Detroit or something. So do you have things that'll be like, oh, you're speeding and it's flashing at them? I seen one recently that actually had police lights on it. Like when you went 2 miles, 3 miles over, like, could that be something that you invest in, or is that a maintenance issue as well?
That wouldn't be eligible with this grant. And I know there have been some changes recently on the lights that can be on that. We currently do not have any of those in place. We don't own and operate any of those in our system. We do have annual permits. We work with, I know Kalamazoo Township Police Department. They have a number of units they put on signs, and we permit them to put them up in the right of way and use them where they see fit, because the law enforcement are typically the ones that are behind that enforcement side of things. So it kind of makes more sense from our perspective to kind of leave that to them right now. So county sheriff has speed trailers and we work with them on placement of those as well.
Commissioner Gisler?
Thank you, Chair. Covered a lot of ground, and I really appreciate it. I sit in on most of your meetings and I learn something almost every meeting I attend, and I certainly learned a lot now. But I would like to have you address the issue of tree removal, not along stretches of open road, but at intersections. Could you, I don't want to belabor things, but I'd like to have you talk about fatalities, serious injuries, traffic counts, and that sort of stuff involving some of these significant intersections, probably along the same, Drake and Sprinkle and Portage and whatever.
Yeah.
You got information on that you're prepared to deliver?
So I don't have specific number, but I know that when we looked at the percentage of deaths and injuries from that safety action plan, the number 2 thing was intersections. So lane departures was number 1 and intersections was number 2. There's a lot of things that can go into a crash. I like to think of it as baking a cake. There's a bunch of ingredients. If you put eggs in a pan in the oven, it's not going to create a crash, but there's a number of factors that could go into it. So road condition, weather condition, driver ability, mechanical capability of the vehicle. There's a number of things that go into it. The intersections and sight distance, that plays a part. We do get requests from residents that they can't see at intersections. We go out and measure what it is, what it's supposed to be from where you're supposed to stop. If clearing's needed, we do that on a regular basis. Again, that will be happening as a part of this at the intersections on this SS4A project. On those 130 miles, we will be looking at intersections and cleaning up trees at those intersections as well.
If I understand that correctly, that means this doesn't get washed in the maintenance side of things.
Correct.
This is part of the SS4A.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Because it's providing that safety benefit.
I think I'm down to 2 questions. So in the action plan, this is one of the few, it is a primary opportunity for community to provide input on implementation and design programming. And it's sort of for road commissioners and managing director, it's one of the things I've tried to voice from community. So community feels often unheard by the road commission. So I am encouraged to see the beginning of this dialogue where we're hearing community concern. We're beginning to be responsive to that. There's a number of community comments within the action plan. And they're asked to, check box some questions, and they had some open field to answer as well. Within those open answers, 27 out of 45 of the comments received addressed dangerous conditions at 14th and D Avenue. Many residents were concerned about that intersection, the safety of it, the number of crashes, people being hurt, and I didn't see any work identified on that intersection within the action plan. Can you speak to why?
Yes, because we were focusing on the crash data, right? Again, the comments from the residents were to point us out to an area that we may overlook and want to look to see if there was crash data there. We understand, and we get calls from residents about the in 14th Street. And we are actively looking at grant opportunities to do improvements at that intersection. So we are trying to focus to do something there, just not with this current program, but there are other safety grants available to us, and that intersection is in part of our conversation with those grants.
Okay, so you're driving decisions just based on the data, not on consumer or the resident input. Then why are you collecting the resident input?
We understood because it didn't deviate from anything we'd heard from residents before the survey as well, right? So we understand it's a concern. So we are prioritizing it when we're seeking grant funding for safety improvements. We don't have enough with the safety programs we have available to us. We're only allowed to submit 1 or 2 projects for a capped amount of money. So that safety action plan, again, identified 200 different locations around the county where there might be safety issues. So there's not enough money for us to be able to go around everywhere all at once. So
Sure.
We do understand the residents' concern there, and we are trying to prioritize that to make sure we can address it.
Just feedback for the road commission. Maybe it would have impact for the community to feel heard when it's the number one concern that's communicated to you and then it's addressed. I think there's value to that. Certainly can't address everything, but maybe a segment where there have been no fatal accidents on a stretch of road didn't need to be clear-cutted, and you could have identified action at 14th and D Avenue to address. The last question I have for you is about the source of strategies. Identify the Road Safety Handbook from Oxford from 2004. Why aren't we using the AASHTO Green Book? It's a current source that identifies modes of traffic and how to road design. Why isn't that the primary source that we're using for road design?
We have options available to us, right? And so we primarily use the AASHTO Green Book because it is a nationally accepted standard, right? So it gives guidance. We, as engineers, are able to execute engineering judgment. So that's where we're relying on our experience and background and implementing these projects, seeing what works and what doesn't. So taking that into account is what we're doing. We don't just sit there and go, this is all that's done, right? This book says this is what we're going to do. We operate in some gray and nuance in that area. So I understand concerns about just strictly using the AASHTO Green Book. There are a number of sources we rely on.
So you do use the AASHTO Green Book because it just wasn't identified as a source for your engineering control?
Yes, most road designers use the AASHTO Green Book in some manner.
Okay, but then you also use the Oxford Road Safety Measures Handbook primarily?
I won't say primarily, no.
Okay. So just so you know, that's the one source cited in your design specs. Okay. All right. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Any other questions? All right. Thank you. Okay. All right, good. Okay, so now this will bring us to our next presentation. It's item 2026-937. This is community feedback on the desired qualities for the next county administrator and controller. So at our last board meeting, we requested seeking impact or input rather from community stakeholders, municipal governments, employees, and we were provided a summary in really tiny print for my little old lady eyes. So we appreciate everybody that took the time to provide us those insights and feedback. The values that you saw articulated, I think really clear to me through much of the feedback that we received was just the caliber of leadership that this organization has been under the last number of years. It spoke very highly to Dr. Catlin's role and the culture that's been built and the excellence that is demonstrated in both of our deputy county administrators, Terrell Cole and Lindy Smith, and how they have moved this organization forward, and they're really seen very positively overall. Some people provided us, brief feedback, and some really took time and provided thoughtful, detailed comments, and all of those, whether they were brief or extensive, are valuable and help inform the board as we sort of deliberate. Commissioners, we have heard from Dr. Catlin, who is not with us this evening because he is attending to some joyful family matters. We hope to see him back at our next session. But we've received some communications just encourage us to think through and move forward with a interim determination because the departments and deputy administrators and community need time to transition as we move towards Dr. Catlin's exit to his next role. And so I'd open opportunity for feedback and discussion from commissioners. Vice Chair.
Thank you very much and appreciate this information. I've had a chance to go over it in between meetings. We got this today when we sat down. So there's a lot of information and it's a lot of good information. And as the chair said, this board as a whole values our employees' input in this selection. They're going to be the front line of this. So I take this very seriously. I do, I'm trying to internalize this and trying to compartmentalize this as quickly as I possibly can. One thing that I feel very strongly on, and I will say this, is as we go through this process and look for a new leader of this county, I do think that we need to separate the controller and the administrator position. I feel that way for multitude. It's not based on the personalities of the people involved. It's based on the overall structure of 5 years from now, 20 years from now, 100 years from now. What is going to be a structure that is stable, that maintains the ability of us to move forward? I think hiring and putting somebody in a position for a controller position that handles finance and putting somebody in a position for administrator that handles administrative roles would be best interest of the citizens of this county. I think the budget process and the 5-year planning is a full-time job. I think we asked, one of the weaknesses of this board was we asked Dr. Catlin to do too many things. And he willingly said yes to every single thing that we asked. And I don't think that was the best interest of us and a board. And I think it was unfair to do that to Dr. Catlin. And as we move forward, I think that the administrator role should be an administrator role and the controller role should be a controller role, and that we need to separate this for the long-term health of the county. I agree with the chair. We have a bunch of great internal candidates for administrator. But I do feel that those positions need to be separated.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Dr. Catlin isn't present with us this evening, but I do just want to highlight some of the information he shared with the board for education of the community. And I'll note, Dr. Catlin has taken employment at another organization that offers him even more to do than we do. So certainly when we hire someone capable, he'll run a school district, a police department, county administration, regardless. But so he did identify for us there were county administrator duties that also include preparing and submitting a recommended annual budget. And there's significant organizational and operational considerations about how those two roles of controller and administrator overlap. And one of the things that I think is important for us to consider is that as we transition, whether this is a short-term transition and we move forward to do an extensive search, we brought in Dr. Catlin as a very high quality, high caliber candidate because we offered a position that was an exciting position to someone of high quality and caliber. If we diminish the roles and responsibilities of the position, we will attract candidates with fewer qualities than one which they are asked to do a number of duties. So he did also identify, just things for the board to consider. If the positions are separated between the controller and administrator, if it would create ambiguity between authority and accountability in the budget process, if it would create competing priorities between administrative and the financial leadership. It may also create duplication of effort or decision-making, create challenges in coordination of the budget development and implementation, and confusion regarding supervisory authority over the shared operational functions. He also identified governance and risk considerations about how to appropriately align with law, clearly define authority and accountability, preserve efficient administration of county government, and then avoiding unintended liability or governance conflicts. So I just want to highlight that he had communicated those concerns. His recommendation is it is a best practice for those roles to be intertwined because the administrator is tasked through statutory responsibility for significant administrative and financial controls. I think I had Commissioner Morales and then Vice Chair Pro Tem Hepler.
Thank you, Chair. So I've had some conversations with administration, with Dr. Catlin, and a few commissioners as well. And consistently, he is pointing to his administration team, because we're talking about the interim right now, right? We're not talking about, we still got a whole hiring process and recruiting and all that thing. So I'm just gonna jump into some bullet points so I don't go off the grid. In talking with him, interim appointments should prioritize stability, continuity, and for us to maintain the momentum of the county. We're entering our budget process, and this is not the time to start dissecting what we already have in place and the experts that we have, especially when we talk about Deputy Cole and his financial acumen coming from a stellar organization before he got here. I think sometimes we look at who we have in that gives the financial report, but we are not recognizing the machine behind the report. So I do want to highlight that for you, Deputy Cole. As Vice Chair just mentioned and Chair mentioned about the separation of the administrator and controller roles, that should occur probably during the permanent process and not during an interim process. So I think as a board, we need to be unanimous on how we make this decision and not cut those ties right now. I know prior we had a discussion on, looking at posts to maybe take over these responsibilities. But again, I'll highlight that Deputy Cole is the engine that keeps this machine rolling. I also have the interim appointment should preserve continuity while allowing the board to focus on governance and operation, the budget operation. Deputy Cole already oversees internal services, including many of the departments leading to the budget process, highlighting that again. Our current administrator has coordinated with our former deputy County Administrator Patsy Moore, who was willing to come in and assist with transition and provide additional institutional knowledge, which she did a phenomenal job as we were in that process in searching for Dr. Catlin. When it comes to Deputy Smith, she's focused on external services and does a fantastic job at that. She has also mentioned that she's willing to step in, but, you know, where she is right now, she feels like she can be the most effective, if I'm quoting that right. What else do I have? This approach preserves executive leadership across both internal and external services while providing the stability we need during this critical period. A 6-month appointment allows the board to evaluate the interim arrangement while thoughtfully determining the permanent organizational structure and recruitment strategy. I know that others are probably gonna have some more input, but I'm gonna go ahead and put the motion on the floor. Can I make a motion? Oh, okay. So for everything that I just said, and for the integrity of this county, I move that Deputy County Administrator Cole be appointed to interim county administrator and controller for the period of 6 months.
Motion is made by Commissioner Morales and supported by Commissioner Ray. Let's open the rest of the discussion. Commissioner DeLue.
Well, actually, I have some questions for the more experienced senior people on the board that have been through this before. And I think I probably know the answer to the first one, but is it necessary? We have 2 capable deputies. Is it necessary to have an interim? That's my first question. Secondly, is it advisable to go outside the organization, maybe to bring in some fresh eyes to the situation instead of appointing an internal interim? And is it possible? I've heard it's going to take, I don't know how many months to actually find a new administrator to split the time between the 2 very capable deputies, 3 and 4 months each to see how it goes. I just have 3 questions for this board. I'm looking for answers. I don't have an answer. That's why I'm asking the people who have been through this process before.
I would expect you may get some different answers from different members of the board. So I'm just going to share. For me, I think the value of elevating one of the deputy administrators is it provides continuity and stability. We have we've referred to this executive cabinet as the dream team repeatedly. And, these are candidates that were both recruited and vetted and hired into their roles by Dr. Catlin, that we have extreme regard for him, his abilities, his opinion. And I know that both of our deputies work very well with one another. They understand the mission of what's been in process, and they would help to continue that. So the question you ask, do we have to have an interim appointment? We don't necessarily have to do that. One of the values of it is that we can use that as a transition period, and we may be really pleased with how it's going. And there isn't a need for an exhaustive additional search. Or we may find, this is really good. We've reached a plateau of organizational growth and we want to challenge for more growth. And maybe we do then want to do a search. But we've got some space to evaluate that between a decision we might make now and one we can make in the future. I don't know if I answered all of those things, but I saw Vice Chair Pro Tem.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for that question, Commissioner. I think it's a very pertinent one. I do appreciate everything that both our assistant administrators have been doing. I think that we have another possibility too out here without going outside our organization if we have to. We have Mary Balkema, who has been a very good leadership. She's shown great initiative in getting things done, bringing things to the board. Our current administrators their plates are full right now, and if we have to change that, we could have some potential issues where things might slip through the cracks. Again, I agree with what the chair is saying. Do we have to? No, we could leave things go, but I think we do need a leadership that's going to keep us focused on what we're doing. We're right in our budget year. We're working on our budget right now, and we have two great administrators that are working diligently to do that. But if we start saying, okay, well, now you've got these duties that Dr. Kaplan's doing, what's going to slip through the cracks? Where are we going to be at? I think separating the controller from the administration would help with that at this point in time. And there's no reason why we can't put it back if we need to. But I think separating it right now during this interim period would be a good plan for us to get a good quality product, because we got to have a good quality product to take care of our employees that are going to be here next year. So, and we know that those are, issues. And my thought is that we consider separating that piece so that at least part of that is being held by our the financial part of it while we get through the budget for this year, and relying on our two assistants to keep that process in motion. But I would say that, we have a good possibility, if we need to have an administrator, of talking to Mary Balcamo. She's brought good things to the table, and she's managed to bring to make it happen. So at this moment in time, I still think separating the two right now, regardless, the two offices, we suggested this back when we hired Dr. Kaplan, but I understand that, yes, it does make it more interesting, but we aren't sure who we're going to put at the helm at this point in time. So, and there's no reason why we can't return that if we find that we have a candidate that either wants it or we need to do it. But I see no reason why we can't separate it. I've been in here when we've had it separated. John's been here when we've had the two separate offices, and it's worked fine. It's worked fine.
Commissioner Gisler, and then I have Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I've enjoyed not talking yet because I appreciate the inputs from everybody, starting with John. And I do think I agree that over the long term, we should probably have the controller and administrator functions separated. Not right now. I'm completely in cahoots with Montes that and that's a terrible position for both of us, isn't it? I don't even know what cahoots means, but it means I agree with you. I will, and I don't want to diminish the value of Mary, but if we get Mary running the county, who's watching after housing, which is obviously one of the key big functions in the county. And that's not to diminish Willa's impact, but I think my solution, where I gonna describe all this, would be to put Terrell in the daddy chair. Yeah, well, Winston's going to have something to say about that, and do that now for a 6-month period. I support your time frame, and then that buys us 6 months to get a feel for Terrell's competence, to then evaluate, do we want to separate these two functions? But I'd say just move him right into Kevin's spot now, the way it is, and let's get 6 months to take care of other things. Thank you for tolerating me. Sorry, Montes.
Vice Chair.
Thank you. I wanted to respond to a couple of things. One, having the administrator and controller position together is not best practice. Multiple counties, especially larger counties, do not do that because it is not best practice. That being said, I will be voting no on this motion because it does not separate it. I'll be voting no on motion for anybody to be in there until we separate that. I think we made a mistake as a board previously. I wasn't on it, but when we combined those positions, I think we made a mistake in that the separation of those powers puts way too much onerous, way too much work and control into one person. Who we owe allegiance to, in my mind, is the citizens of Kalamazoo County. I've got no problem with Terrell being the administrator, and I would support that, but I cannot support those positions with anybody in that being the same. When I was chair back in 2015, what I found works the best was having advice as the chair or commissioners to get from 3 different independent sources. I got information from my controller, I got information from my administrator, and back then we had a corporate counsel that reported directly to the Board of Commissioners, and I would get information from that person as well. One, we need more of a direct reporting style from corporate counsel to the Board of Commissioners. We need more of a direct reporting style from the controller to the county commissioners. And we need a more direct reporting. We have a direct reporting style from our administrator to the county Board of Commissioners. In my mind, I think having those 3 independent sources of advice best serves us in our role of policymaking. It has nothing to do with personalities. It has nothing to do with Lindy, Kevin, Lou, or Brian, or whoever the administrator or controller would be. I just feel that we need to address the structural portion of how this county operates before we get into the personnel portion of who fits those roles. I think we need to put the cart before the horse. Until we separate those roles, I just don't know. I mean, maybe a motion, with the order of the motions, if this board says we're absolutely doing that, then I can vote for a person. But I can't vote for that person when we're putting that, and we haven't had a vote or discussion on the separation of roles yet first.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And I just want to add, I appreciate the perspective of colleagues and those who have served here for a long time. I do want to hearken back to this commission and the amount of work that we've accomplished, the amount of strategic initiatives that we've moved forward, and the amount of praise that we've given to how the budget is currently crafted, constructed, presented, and how we've developed a long-term plan about how we utilize capital resources. All of that has occurred when we merged these positions together. We talked really extensively about the shortcomings of what was done in the past as far as how we budgeted, how we used vacant positions to fund capital improvement projects, for example. Those things happened when we had a separation of the current roles. Do we have any additional discussion, or we call the question? There's been Commissioner Mazur, please.
Well, I agree with Vice Chair and also Vice Chair Pro Tem. I'd like to consider Mary Balkema. I think she would. I think the deputies we have are outstanding. They really are. They've been wonderful. But I'd like to consider Mary also.
Cool.
Yes, I want to allow Commissioner Mazur opportunity to speak. The question has been called. The motion is to appoint Deputy Administrator Terrell Cole as Administrator and Controller for a 6-month period. Clerk, will you please call the roll? Sorry, thank you. Clerk, will you please call a roll on calling question?
Vice Chair Pro Tem Hepler.
No.
Commissioner Mazur.
No.
Commissioner Morales.
Yes.
Commissioner Ray.
Yes.
Chair Strebbs.
Yes.
Vice Chair Taylor.
No.
Commissioner Wheeler.
Yes.
Commissioner DeLue.
No.
Commissioner Gisler.
Yes.
It's 5 yes.
That motion carries. The question is called. Clerk, now to the motion as previously stated, or should I state again, Council? The motion on the floor is to appoint Deputy Administrator Terrell Cole to the position of Administrator Controller for a 6-month interim appointment. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Mazer,
Yes.
Commissioner Morales,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray,
Yes.
Chair Strebs,
Yes.
Vice Chair Taylor,
No.
Commissioner Wheeler,
Yes.
Commissioner DeLue,
No.
Commissioner Gisler,
Yes.
Vice Chair Pro Tem Hepler.
No.
6 yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. Congratulations to Deputy County Administrator. And thank you to the commissioners for your dialogue. It's an important discussion and one we'll continue as we work our way through. All right. We'll move to item 9 as an opportunity for public hearings. We have none this evening. Now we move to item 10. This is our opportunity for public comment. There's an individual wishing to make public comment may come forward. Once you're recognized, please state your name and where you're from. You have up to 3 minutes to address the board, a topic of any of your choosing. We expect you to address the board respectfully and professionally.
Why would you say that to me?
I say that to everyone.
Okay.
At this time, this is our opportunity for public comment. Welcome.
Good evening. I just want to point out you made probably one of the largest decisions you'll make in months without public comment preceding that decision. You just appointed basically a new administrator without public comment. That's kind of disappointing. So much for transparency, openness, all that stuff. The other thing I'm going to point out is regarding the, I forget what the term he used, the 33 feet from the center of the roadway and how that's supposed to be clear and everything's supposed to be breakaway. Did you guys, when you permitted the flock cameras that are not on breakaway poles, did you guys consider that rule or does that not count too? Because, if we're going to be cutting down everything, we should probably cut down those flock cameras too. Thank you. And I'll turn it off for you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Dr. Joanne O'Rourke, the Texas Township Supervisor. I am here, hello, Commissioners. I am here to speak in favor of the Safe Streets for All project, and I will make just a few key points. First and foremost, a driving mistake should not be a death sentence. We are talking about infrastructure engineering, but the real goal of this project is saving human lives. The core mission of the project is 0 deaths, because running off the road should be a survivable error and not a fatal tragedy. I've heard people say all kinds of things. I've read public comment. I've heard things that I find so offensive and not belonging in public discourse about any type of policy. From a poor judgment call that somebody makes to reading a text, to somebody having had an alcoholic beverage, or a kid who went to a party and smoked weed. These should not be accidents that end up turning out into somebody losing their life when it could have been a survivable accident. And they go on to live another day and to learn a lesson. Next point, trees are Michigan's deadliest roadside obstacle. There's lots of data about this. Nationwide, trees cause over 40% of fixed object traffic fatalities. In Michigan, hitting a tree is the #1 cause of road deaths for drivers aged 16 to 20. Next point, road safety is an issue of equity and public health. Newer, expensive vehicles have advanced technology. They warn drivers. Lower income neighbors driving older cars don't have those luxuries, and this makes them disproportionately vulnerable when their cars accidentally leave the asphalt. My next point, proactive clearing keeps a path open for first responders. I got into local government because of the 2024 tornadoes. Severe storms have structurally weakened roadside trees. When a weather crisis hits, trees that fall across roadways become your worst enemies. They become what stands between you and your loved ones, between you and medical help, between you and safety. Almost done. The original proposal would affect a fraction of 1% of trees in the county. Yet it would provide substantial increased safety for human life. A final point. We don't have to guess whether clear zones work. There are decades of data from other countries that provide the evidence. When Sweden pioneered this type of forgiving infrastructure design, they slashed their traffic death rate by over 70%. That work goes back to 1997 and involves a multi-pronged approach like the Road Commission is suggesting here.
Supervisor?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening. I'm Marianne Barnard. I live in Vicksburg, Michigan. And I just have 2 points I'd like to make. One is I'm just very curious about the survey that went out. I don't understand the value of the survey and who it went to, and I would just like some clarity on that from someone. Because it didn't go to the county from what I understand, but I really can't anticipate who it went to or what the point of it was. The other thing I would like to do is just kindly reiterate what someone had said at the meeting, at the Road Commission meeting last week. We did not know about the roads being evaluated or trees coming down until we all saw X's all over the trees. And then it started a dialogue, which is what healthy communities do. Healthy communities talk to each other. Pros, cons, what have you. On XY, which is near my house, there are 0 accidents on that road, and yet every tree is marked for clearing. Just reiterating that and making a point. I'm not asking for any answers of that because I do believe that there have been some changes, and I'll be curious to see which trees will then stand the test of time from the 4,000, from the 8,000 to 4,000. But really, I would love to hear an answer about where the survey went and what was the point of the survey prior to this project being developed. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to make public comment? I'll also encourage community, if there are a number of you who wish to make a public comment, you can feel free to form a line so we don't have to lag in between comments. You can just join for a comment right after the person before you. Welcome to you. You turned your mic off. Okay. Now it's back on. You're welcome.
Commissioners, Road Commission, you've put a lot of work into this, and it's very much appreciated. But I just get it off my chest. I don't want these trees taken down. They're beautiful. They're historic. They're precious, and they breathe oxygen. Having said that, what we're facing here is the data, specific data for our county on these roads, not aggregate information collected from the state or the country. And what's already been mentioned is that 3 fatalities, not an aggregate figure that appears to make things worse than what they currently are. Now, there's an implementation process, and these rumble strips have shown to be very effective. Why not implement that first without taking down all the trees? And I'm not saying don't take any trees down, but take those who show a rottenness or defectiveness, the limbs that come over the roads that are almost parallel to the roads need to be done. There's a lot of work in regards to shaping trees and pruning them that will make them more beautiful, last longer, and be stronger, instead of just clear cutting them. So those are my recommendations, and there's hardly any input or documentation to driver responsibility. And there needs to be that, and also speed on the roads. Reduce the speed. And I know you're thinking that's not our jurisdiction, but this is where
This is where you need to become organizers and advocates on behalf of the community. The community doesn't want this. And it wants to have a more critical, thoughtful approach to how we treat the trees in balance with safety. That's it. And so far, I haven't heard anything on the limiting of the trees. It still seems to be a discretionary decision within the entity that's going to be taking these trees down without any guarantee on protecting the trees. I'd like to see that. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all of your good work. Forgive me for my criticisms, but that's just the way I feel. So.
Thank you. What was that? His time?
Hello there.
I'm sorry, just a moment. Do we still have did I not hear the music go off again? We still have it if it runs out of time? Okay. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm not listening to my colleagues well enough. Speaker, will you come forward and share your name, or I know it so I can share it for the record, but will you come back and share your name with the board? I'm so sorry. Thank you.
I apologize. How you doing?
Hi.
I'm Bill Farmer. I live at 9200 South 36th Street. And I've seen clear cutting out there on some of the roads, and it's not a pretty sight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Farmer. Thank you for your patience. Welcome to you.
Hello, thank you so much. My name's Elizabeth. I live in Climax. I live on MN Avenue, aka Emergency 94. My husband and I bought our dream farm last year on 4 acres and moved to this area specifically because it was tree lined and it was lovely and it was our dream to be there. As well as having a 100-year-old plus house, we have 100-year-old plus trees, and that was part of what we bought the home for, was to look out our window and see that. But also, we have 5 trees that are affected by the SS4A project. I absolutely agree that we should have safe streets for all, and 0 deaths. I'm all for that. But I also would like to have 0 deaths within our home. And these trees protect our living room from the traffic that we watch outside of our door. We see semis going by over the speed limit. We see multiple cars going by over the speed limit. When we're driving home from the grocery store, multiple people pass us, honking their horns, driving way over the speed limit. One of my first thoughts was, why aren't we having more police out there to actually monitor and decrease the speed so that people don't crash? We did have someone crash into our mailbox last year around 2:30 in the morning, took off most of their car, left it in our front yard. I don't know if they were drunk, but I'm going to guess the 2:30 a.m. timing might have included that. So I would just love to see safety in that regard as well. Also, I'm curious about not only in the environmental impact, the value of our home in terms of removing these trees, but I am concerned about this plan seeming like an all or nothing plan. The gentleman before me kind of stole my line. Why can't we start with the rumble strips? Why can't we start with dead trees and trees that are blocking areas, and then reassess and reevaluate what's going on? When we cut these trees, it can't be undone. You can't take back 100+ years. And so I would love for that to be considered. And I'm also deeply concerned, if this is true, that the Road Commission advised that the board that they may take down additional trees that they deem necessary at their discretion. That just concerns me. What discretion is that, and what trees are these? So I would love if everyone would please reconsider this project and invite public comment. And the last thing I'll say is that although I was born and raised here, I lived in Seattle for many years before just moving back here to my home. And in Seattle, whenever anything happened with the roads, we'd get a postcard in the mail. We'd hear about it. We had a year or more to talk about it as a community, so it was very shocking to see X's on trees and have to go online and research it and learn about this ourselves and not have heard a thing about it before. So I would just love more communication on any projects in the future, so we can talk sooner and not in the middle of or at the beginning of the project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Mark Austin. I live on Portage Road near the intersection with XY Avenue, so almost out of the county. I'm a little concerned about the size of the tree project in comparison to the data we have at hand. The tree removal project is an irreversible event. We will not see trees of this stature in our lifetime if they're cut. And yet we're talking about a relatively small number of fatal and serious vehicle accidents with trees. And I'm wondering if we couldn't analyze those accidents in our county, real data that affect us, to find out what caused those accidents more specifically. And I will give you an example. On my segment of Portage Road, there are numerous trees marked with X's on both Portage Road and XY Avenue. The trees are most dense where there is a high density of homes on narrow lots with lots of driveways that access those roads. The speed limits in those areas are still 55, which makes no sense. To drive 55 down those segments of XY and Portage is very dangerous, and most people who live there don't go over 45. My second point is I've lived in this area for 30 years. There's one segment of Portage Road where people probably every other year leave the roadway and strike almost the same tree because it's where Portage Road makes about a 15 to 20 degree bend. It's a predictable spot. A guardrail or some other mechanical device would keep the impaired drivers from hitting a tree, and I think rumble strips would wake up the inattentive driver to maintain the roadway. So I think there are data we could use to really hone in on where the danger spots are, and the supersized 33 clearing project is, to me, a solution in search of a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Please come forward.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Sadowski. I live at 1963 East Y Avenue, and I am here to speak about the SS4A program. There's a couple of things I'm kind of having trouble swallowing, especially after hearing tonight's presentation. The number one thing being that 32% of the $25 million budget is going to be spent on the removal of trees rather than road resurfacing, intersections, repairing, and rumble strips. 32% on trees? It seems extremely excessive. We have been going to the Kalamazoo County Road Commission meetings for the last few meetings that they've had. We originally started going because we were told that there was no changes that could be made. In talking to residents, we now have 2,100 people that we're communicating with who do not want these trees removed. And in the communication that we're having with them, they were also told that no change could be made. Now we're finding out that, yes, we are willing to compromise, we are willing to change, but then the decision is made that we've decided that this is the change that we're making and there's no more conversation going back and forth. So it just kind of feels odd that we're told originally that it can't be changed, then it can be changed, but it doesn't have to be voted on by the Road Commission because it's a design change. So that just doesn't really feel transparent as far as how you're communicating with your residents. And we have stated repeatedly that the reason why we don't want these trees cut down is a safety issue. We understand that trees being hit is a safety issue, but we live out on these rural roads and I drive them every single winter, as do all of us. And these trees line farm fields where the winds howl and they push the snow across the road. And the trees being there block the snow from being on the roads. We know this because there are several sections where the trees have been completely clear cut, and they're some of the worst roads in Kalamazoo County, and I will go around them and specifically drive down these tree-lined roads so that I am not white-knuckling my steering wheel all the way down. So that is the number one reason that we started this petition and talking to the Road Commission about not eliminating these trees, is because it is a safety issue. And you are creating a safety issue for 100% of the drivers that will be driving on these roads in the wintertime. Following that, the leading cause of traffic fatalities per the state of Michigan website is driver inexperience, speeding, low seatbelt use, distracted driving, and impaired driving. Trees is 3 more beneath that. We have a lot of trees on the side of these roads that we need there to block the blowing snow in the winter. And we just really would appreciate some help in getting that point across, as well as the 2,100 people that have now signed this petition that also agree with this stance. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to make public comment? Please join us. Thank you.
Good evening. I just wanted to touch on the subject of the gun violence reduction.
Will you please share your name? I almost forgot.
Douglas Prude, Kalamazoo resident.
Thank you.
I just wanted to see some more programs to tackle that subject of reoccurring gun violence around here by a lot of juvenile teenagers. Mainly, like, even with police getting involved with kids in school, something like the DARE program used to do, and even teenagers a little older than elementary that need guidance, so they could stop getting into all of this, criminal life at a young age because lack of guidance. And I just want to see some programs that's tackling that, not trying to get more charges, but to get in relationships with these kids and see what they need help with, and just seeing what they need help with and what's really going on with. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome to you. Please join us.
Good evening. My name is Rob Morrison. I live on Green Meadow Road off of Drake in Oshtemo County. And I do appreciate the road commission actually has traffic calming things they're putting in on Green Meadow. So I appreciate that very much. I wish I could see more on Drake because you really need some more traffic calming around here. I moved here from Chicago, and some of the speed limits around here I'm really having a hard time believing. Some of them don't even have speed limits, and that's how they're used. But in Chicago, I was in the city, there weren't rural roads, but there were a lot of one-way roads with parking on both sides, and people would do 60, 70 miles an hour down there. And so in my neighborhood alone, there were traffic calming measures implemented everywhere because it was just too dangerous. And so I do appreciate the road commission getting a grant and concentrating on safety. I think that's a great idea. I've been doing some research and finding that really with traffic accidents and deaths and trees in the state of Michigan, that even though tree removal is one of the remedies, the best solutions are traffic calming and also education, trying to get people not to drive impaired or speed. And so I would like to see them revisit that and put more money into the traffic calming before they go after 4,000 trees. And some of the reasons that I have heard is that, and looked at this because I used to live out west and I saw a lot of clear cutting there, you can get soil erosion. You can also get wind that'll blow snow. So everyone's in danger if you're going to have debris and snow on the road during the winter. So that's something that I think I'd like to see that taken in consideration. What I didn't see in the data was really a convincing argument for clear cutting that number of trees. Now, dead trees, dying trees, trees that are blocking, sight lines, those of course should come down. But I think there needs to be something beyond just sort of an arbitrary, we got money, we can cut them. So those are my comments, and that's what I appreciate everyone considering. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to make public comment? Please come join us. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Rhonda Walters. I live at 12480 South 18th Street in Vicksburg. I commend the RCKC for the safety improvements they are planning to implement with the SS4A grant. Additional signage, rumble strips, guardrails are all common sense measures that will improve safety. But there is no justification for decimating thousands of trees under the guise of safety. You downplay the ravaging of our country roads with claims that tree removal can be done with minimal negative environmental impact. Removal is the negative environmental impact, not the process of removal. You claim that tree removal is a proactive measure. I call it reactive. Too much emphasis is placed on the minute percent of people who can't navigate the roadways. Whatever happened to the voice of the majority? Why do safe drivers have to be deprived of the right to live in natural beauty? Thank you.
My name is Ruth Prince-Borst. I live at 3603 Madison Street, Kalamazoo. I question how cutting down healthy trees jives with trees being known, studied traffic calmers. It seems like the plan acquiesces to speeding, distracted, and careless drivers, and no, they don't deserve to die, but will fewer trees simply encourage the behavior and increase speeds because they can. Also, I think I heard correctly that the choice is to put the rumble strips outside the line instead of inside to give them more time. I mean, why not put them on the inside if we're truly concerned about them going off the road? Also, people, as we very well know, people crash into buildings very frequently, probably much more than trees, but somehow we don't advocate for demolishing buildings. There has to be another solution. And again, I point back to question about the traffic calming value of trees, as well as many other benefits.
Thank you very much. Welcome. Step forward.
My name's Michael Solis. I live at 15648 Portage Road. I've been out there for 39 years. I've seen one fatal accident. It was when a gentleman tried to outrun the police. Our line road on Portage Road is so calming when you're coming home. XY is the same way. I've looked at some other spots. W Ave, they're clear cutting. Over on Eliza Street, west of 131, it's 25 miles an hour, and they have so many trees that are majestic, ready to be cut down. 25 miles an hour. Why? I don't see scarring on these trees. I don't see cars that have run into them. Like I said, the one tree that my neighbor had talked about, yes, it has been quite frequently, but it's on a curve. People are impaired, bam, straight on. Or in bad weather, they slide into it. I think there's a lot better ways to spend this money for road safety. How about just repairing the roads? That would be a big start. Take the chuck holes out, get the edges fixed, do the rumble strips. Not all money's good money, a friend told me once. It's not like they're making a profit with this money. The people who are working for them are going to make the profit. This is something that I do not feel needs to be done. I think that it should be reevaluated, and I'm thanking you folks for kind of stepping in for us.
Thank you. Welcome. Please come forward.
Hi, my name is Susie Fitzgibbon. I live on Portage Road in Schoolcraft Township, Kalamazoo County. And yes, we are back, your citizens of Kalamazoo County, to once again speak on the Kalamazoo Road Commission SS4A initiative. As our representatives, it is important for you to take notice that we have collected over 2,100 signatures on a petition against the Road Commission's SS4A plan. And this is after only a few weeks of effort. Are you listening to your community? The signatures on our petition are your constituents asking for you to take action. We elected you, and I believe your most important job as a Kalamazoo County Commissioner is to listen and respond to the voting public. So let's talk about the Road Commission. It seems as though the last time I was here, you indicated that you have no control over the Road Commission. I understand that statement to a certain degree. But you do have control over the Road Commission Board, as you appointed each and every one of those Road Commission Board members. Those appointees are responsible to you as a governing body, and you put them in that position because they have the authority to set policy for the Road Commission, as well as the authority to hire and fire the Road Commission Managing Director. You can find this information on the Road Commission's website. So I am here today to ask you, if you appointed the Road Commission Board and your voting public is unhappy with the decisions being made over at the Road Commission, then it is your responsibility as the governing body who appointed them to take action. As elected officials, you should understand that the Road Commission Board has the power to direct the managing director of the Road Commission, and you have the authority to direct the Road Commission Board members. Please put some pressure on your Road Commission Board to understand that Kalamazoo County residents are not happy with removing 8,000 trees or even 4,000 trees. The Road Commissioner Managing Director is basically throwing a bone out to us as the public. First, it was a sapling idea, saying they would replace some trees with saplings. At last month's Road Commission meeting, it was stated that it will be 4,000 trees instead of 8,000. But if you look at the distances that they are proposing, it was 8,000 trees. It was a diversion to report to the media in hopes that the public would walk away in the belief that the Road Commission had really changed the plan. There has been no change in the SS4A plan. Nothing was voted on. It was a smoke and mirrors tactic. Please pay attention as to what is happening over at the Road Commission. This is why we elected you. I challenge you tonight to make a motion of support so that the SS4A project be delayed by the Road Commission Board until the plan is rewritten to include only the trees that are dead or diseased, and that all roads within the plan receive rumble strips to alert drivers they are leaving the roadway. Listen to your voters' voices, please.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to make public comment? Please make it efficient line. We want to hear folks, but we want to move through, please, so we can attend to business. Come forward. You're welcome. Come forward.
I'm Wesley J. Crawford, and I've lived on Portage Road for approximately 55 years. I live in a beautiful area that is beautiful in large part due to the trees that proliferate at the hand of nature. These trees produce massive amounts of oxygen that promotes better mental health and a feeling of well-being. I possibly have more trees lining my frontage than any other person on Portage Road. I have about 900 feet of frontage. There are open fields that have more frontage, but not with the trees. There's a huge, healthy tree just across from my driveway. I watch the birds of all kinds make those endless flights to and from it. It's a beautiful sight. And I see this ill-conceived project as a darn poor way to spend an enormous amount of money at a time when we have so many more pressing needs. Here's a question that applies to me personally. I have hundreds of trees close to the road and many others that are set back on the right-of-way. Those trees will remain a hazard to those who lose control or might be forced off the road. What is the plan to make this area safe for motorists that leaves the right-of-way and hit those trees on the private property behind those that are on the property line? It was brought up in the last meeting at the Road Commission, and they said that, well, we'll cut the stumps off flush. I've been down that road before with the power company. They told me the same thing. I myself removed 55 stumps that they'd left cut. They were too low to pull them with a tractor and too tall to mow over them. And they've told me that that would involve a great number of trees on my property. That's not acceptable. It's destruction for little gain. Thank you.
Thank you. Please come forward.
This on? Yep. Brad Sadowski. I live in Schoolcraft Township, and I'm here to bring up a couple of points that were made today's meeting, as well as over the last month in the board meetings we've been attending. Specifically, June 30th, which was last Tuesday's Road Commission board meeting, where the project SS4A project team came up with what they're calling an option 2, and that is where they reduce the number of trees of what they're suggesting from 8,000 to 4,000. That is what they're calling a design change. For the last year, they've been telling residents, and more specifically since May, when these red X's started showing up and orange X's, that the project could not be changed, that it would jeopardize the entire grant. And we found out over the last month that that in fact was not true, even though it was stated in their website in the FAQ document, the last page of the SS4A website, that they could note that they could not change this program. So during June's meeting, June 30th meeting last Tuesday, they brought forth this option 2, which is to remove the trees that are 28 feet from the center line. They're calling it 17, which is a little bit of, I think, smoke and mirrors. It's really proposed 33 feet, but that's only where there's a white line. If there's no white line, and there are no white lines on several of these county roads, then it goes all the way to the edge of the concrete, which means they gain another 2 or 3 feet that they're going to take trees away. So we left that meeting, and I attended the entire meeting, as well as several of our campaign supporters, and we thought the door had been open for conversation, and we were pleased to see that the Road Commission was coming through to talk about this. 24 hours later, I get a phone call from a journalist who wants to interview me and ask me about the Road Commission's new statements they're making, that the PR director or manager had just issued, that they are that they are finalizing this option 2, and this is what they're moving forward with, and it's a done deal. So imagine our surprise when we found out at the June 30th meeting, the Road Commission board didn't vote on this. So we were left thinking that this was still an option. Well, in talking to the chair of the Road Commission board on Thursday, I found out that because this is a design change, that the internal Road Commission team is allowed to make changes, and that the board didn't have to vote on it. So forgive us this new proposal. We found out that what they've been telling us for last year, they can't change this program, was not true. We found out that the board, their own board, doesn't even have to vote on changes, that these design changes can be made by the internal team. So we're very skeptical of the 4,000 number. Now, we've gone out and measured ourselves in a sample, not the entire survey, but a sample, and our number is coming closer to 70% of these trees are still going to be removed. So the feedback we're getting from residents through our 2,100 petitions is our trees are still going to be significantly impacted, and 4,000 is not the right number.
Thank you. That's your time. Thank you very much. Are there others wishing to make public comment? Please come forward. If there are more of you that wish to make comment, please form a line. It will help us move efficiently through our business. Welcome to you.
Hi, I'm Georgia Evans. I live at 830 East U Avenue. Thank you for being here to hear our issue. I'm just stumped. I've been to so many meetings. Everyone at the Road Commission knows me. I'm bowled over by the reasons on why we have to remove our trees. I understand it's safety. We're all going to die. Our trees are killing us. This is what it's feeling like. Our trees are not killing us. We are killing ourselves with stupidity. And I hate to use that word, but honestly, there's a lot of people out there that are doing things with their driving that it's killing them. They're falling off the road. They're veering off the road. I just feel like there's other things that the Road Commission can do. And one of them is lower that speed limit down. We've talked about this repeatedly. I live on U Avenue, and I live between Portage Road and 131. I live across from Prairie View Park. It's a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit through there, as it should be the entire U Avenue. There's 3 different places to go into the county parks over there. There's residents over there, and there's 2 huge S-curves. There's no one that should be going 55 miles an hour, because it's 45 mile by me, and then after 2 S-curves, it kicks up to 50, 55. I understand they're going to make adjustments for the 45 mile an hour to 50, but I'm still saying that whole road should be 45. And they're reducing the number of trees. You're still cutting down the trees. It's not the trees. And there's no dust on our road. I think they're targeting the roads. There's so many more roads that could use the dead trees. Are all sitting there. There's stumps, there's limbs. There's so much more things they could do with that funding. I don't know. I'm speechless. It's a damn shame. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else wishing to make public comment? Welcome. Thank you. Hello.
Hi, thank you. I'm Natalie Dale. I live on Q Avenue, and I have 18 marked trees. So I'm, thankful to hear about what's happening, because I do agree with what has been said, and there's very little communication regarding the marked trees. I do believe that maybe with the change that has happened, that all 18 of my trees are no longer impacted. However, I feel like 3 of them should be taken down. So my proposal is to have the road commission work with the local landowners to identify those trees that really should be taken down. And I have seen accidents. My first 3 months when I lived on Q Avenue, we had 3 major accidents in front of our house, and they were all not due to tree, but tree made the accident worse than what it really should have been, right? And so I do agree that trees are an issue, and that my proposal would be that you work with the landowners to help identify those trees.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to make public comment? All right, I am seeing none. I'm going to end our public comment period. Thank you to the community for your participation. It is appreciated and valued. We're going to go now to item 11. This is the presentation of our consent agenda. Entertain a motion.
Chair, I'll make a motion. I move that the consent agenda items be voted on at one time by roll call vote and be considered as consent agenda by the board.
Motion is made by Commissioner Wheeler, supported by Vice Chair Pro Tem Hepler. Is there any further discussion? Yeah, you're right. Seeing none. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Morales? Commissioner Ray?
Yes.
Chair Stribbs?
Yes.
Vice Chair Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Wheeler?
Yes.
Commissioner DeLue?
Yes.
Commissioner Gisler?
Yes.
Vice Chair Pro Tem Hepler?
Yes.
Commissioner Mazer?
Yes.
9 yes.
Thank you, Clerk. That motion carries. All right, we will now move to item 12, which is for unfinished business and general orders. At this time, we have none. We'll go to item 13, which is new business, non-consent. And here we have to open up discussion. Pardon me, let me scroll through for my material, the rest of my materials. This is a request for summer 26 allocation for gun violence prevention and intervention programming. So we discussed this also at the gun violence ad hoc committee. And so we have $90,000 that's already been slated for gun violence prevention from the Board of Commissioners operating budget. And we need to identify what its use is going to be. So after discussion, we're proposing for the Field of Use Fund for Gun Violence Prevention. This would be from this budget and would bring forth some summer programming for gun violence prevention. Commissioner Ray, would you like to add some additional context for commissioners? Sure.
So one of the things that we talked about during the gun violence ad hoc committee meeting was an allocation to some of the summer programs who are already doing the work. We recognize that a lot of the youth are involved in some of this violence, and we wanted to support programs who are already existing. And one that came up was Bent Not Broken, who has a summer program that's not necessarily called work for the kids, but they're providing a stipend to all of the youth who participate. They have all been identified as at-risk youth. They're participating in program half the day, and then the other half of the day they are working, whether that be cutting grass, whatever work they're doing in the community. I believe there are almost 30 kids involved in this program. We talked about a $25,000 allocation to that organization. And then we also talked about supporting the summer resource and resilience rallies that have been happening since 2020. All of the organizations who are doing work around violence prevention and intervention in the community, they come together, they do 4 events per year, all throughout the summer, providing resources, information. Bronson is coming out doing a Stop the Bleed training for community. Moms Demand Action provides like gun locks. They have information, resources for families impacted. They can sign up and take part in some of those resources. So those are really good informational sessions that happened. One just happened, I believe, a couple weeks ago, and then I'm not sure the exact date for the other 3, but there are 3 remaining for this summer. I talked to some of those organizers, and they said about $5,000 per event would help them move these events forward. So we talked about maybe a $20,000 allocation for them, and then that was kind of as far as we got. We didn't allocate the whole $90,000, but those were the 2 recommendations that came out of our committee meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Ray. I'm seeing Vice Chair Taylor.
Yeah, when did we allocate the $90,000 from the commissioner budget to the gun violence? I have no problem with this program. I think we need to spend it, but I don't believe we've ever allocated $90,000 from commissioner program. What meeting did we do that?
It's the fiscal year 26 budget.
In the fiscal year 26 budget, we set an operating budget for each department. We would have had to change that. We would have had to been a motion by the board to change that $90,000 from the Board of Commissioners budget to this gun violence prevention. When did we change that $90,000?
Commissioner Wheeler, did you want to opine?
I just didn't know if it was a part of the golden ratio with our board priorities.
No, that would come separate after our audit, which we just got here that I haven't had a chance to read through yet. But we would have had to make a motion, correct me if I'm wrong, corporate counsel, but in order to change money from one department budget to another priority, it would have to take a motion by the board. It's not something that can be done unilaterally, correct?
Sir, I would have to do some research on that, as that many times there are many things that are going on or in the small print that may affect that, or other policies that may affect whether or not that can be done. So I can't answer that question right now. I'm sorry, sir.
Vice Chair, Commissioner Ray is recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I don't believe we took it from another department. While we're doing the budget, we talked about supporting the Blueprint for Peace. And one of the, I believe it was the Transportation Committee or something that we allocated it specifically for that before we approved the budget. So it's like in the budget as a line item, the $90,000, but it came under the Blueprint for Peace.
Thank you, Commissioner Ray.
Can I?
Vice Chair.
So we did it in the 2026 budget. We put $90,000 for Blueprint for Peace under the Board of Commissioners allocation. Here's the thing. I support this. Quite frankly, I think it needs more money. But I would look at restricted reserve and use those dollars. I look at our contingency dollars. There's lots of stuff. Right now, we're using restricted reserve to augment training and travel for certain departments. We're not using it for its original intended purpose. I think there's a lot of different areas we could grab that $90,000. I don't know why it's coming out of the county commissioner's budget. That's my question.
Chair, if I may.
Yes, please, Commissioner.
It is in the budget book for new initiatives under the General Fund 101 for community stability. So
it's in the 101 fund, not the Board of
Vice Chair, please ask to be recognized. Vice Chair.
Yes, I'd like to have some dialogue with my colleague here. She seems to have the budget book handy. So it's from the 101 fund, not from the Board of Commissioners fund.
That's what
Through the chair, please.
Sorry.
Commissioner Wheeler, yes?
That's what the online budget book says, so.
Vice Chair.
Okay, so I would recommend or make an amendment that we increase from $90,000 to $100,000 and take it from restricted reserve and contingency and not from the Board of Commissioners operating account.
Thank you for that. Is it a motion that you're entertaining there, Vice Chair?
I was just asking if any other commissioners felt that same way or if they wanted it to come from the Board of Commissioners account.
Thank you. So I'll just express, I support additional resources for gun violence prevention. If utilizing a different funding source is a mechanism to make that happen, certainly amiable to that suggestion. Is there feedback from other commissioners? Commissioner Morales.
So would it be there next year automatically? Does it matter?
This 100,000.
Yeah.
He's requesting we'll have a budget presented to us and we can see if there's a community stabilization fund targeted for gun violence prevention recommended in the budget. So that's still to sort of be negotiated. This particular allocation would be an adjustment from what is budgeted now to strategic reserves is what you've recommended, Vice Chair?
Strategic reserves I think has about $42,000 in it, and the rest of it would come from contingency. Yes. And I think we should go up to 100, not just 90. I just have a problem with the source of the funding, not the program. Quite frankly, I'd like to give more money to it, but I just don't think we should be taking money out of the county commissioner's budget when it may allocate future years.
Well, I'm seeing council, then I'm going to recognize Commissioner Morales, Commissioner Ray, and Commissioner Wheeler. Council.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just caution that, and I'm not disputing the numbers, but I think it would be better to know where these numbers are coming from that the Vice Chair speak of before you make the motion here and now to move that to another allocation, as that those funds may already be utilized for something. And if I may ask a clarifying question, this is not ARPA dollars we're talking about? Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Council. So I had Commissioner Morales, Ray, and Wheeler. Commissioner?
So where do you want the money to go to?
So the part of that is we're still having discussion. So ad hoc committee has identified 25,000 to Bend Not Broken, and then 5,000 to each of these community resilience fairs. So that is what, 35 in total? 45. Thank you so much. And so that's about half of these resources. So we have another 45 that we may need to identify.
So point of clarification, it's from 101 and you don't want to, if we don't use it from 101, what are we using that money for since it's already there?
Funds that we would free back up from 101. We'll come to the question and let's hear maybe Commissioner Ray to speak to that.
I'm sorry, I will yield to Commissioner Wheeler because she's looking at oh no, you're not ready. Okay, so I would also like to know that we don't have to allocate all the funding today. I know that when Dr. Catlin initially presented this and we voted on it, it was to fund some initiatives through the Blueprint for Peace, specifically the Transportation Committee, which I feel like they're kind of working on some things and I don't know if they could use the remaining funding. But this was just the two recommendations. We wanted to utilize the ARPA funding, but once we came up with that great idea, we tried to figure out a different way, and we had these funds. It's July. We haven't used them yet. And I guess I just don't understand when you say taking it from the Board of Commissioners budget. It's already a budgeted line item, and it's not under the Board of Commissioners, is it? Or I guess I'm confused with that because it's already like in the budget under community stability is one of the priorities that we identified.
It's operational.
So it's not like it's like take this from our bucket and put it there. It's already there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And maybe you can look at what Abby's looking at and it'll make sense for you.
I think one of the things that I just highlight that Commissioner Ray has identified is this money is identified within the budget. It's not yet into use into the community. We know the summer is an escalated time for gun violence, and we have an opportunity at least to partially allocate funds here to move them into use in the community through But Not Broken and also through the community resilience fairs. Commissioner Wheeler, do you have anything to add at this time, or recognize Deputy Administrator? Deputy Administrator?
Yes, thank you, Board. This is under the Board of Commissioners contractual item, and this is an annual allocation that's been dedicated, set aside.
Thank you. Vice Chair. Vice Chair.
When you say contractual item, yes, but it was budgeted under the County Board of Commissioners as an yearly allocation under the Department of the County Board of Commissioners for $90,000?
It is under, so the budget line item that you have for contractual services is $162,000. And so under that, that's where it's parked.
Okay, so it sits under our contractual service within the County Board of Commissioners budget. Okay. I think that's a bad budgeting tool, but I'm okay with that. We shouldn't be putting contractual services under our department unless we have full-time employees that can put out RFPs and everything else. But I'm okay with it. But during the next 2027 budget cycle, we should not be putting contractual services under the County Board of Commissioners. It's not good budgeting practice.
Okay. Thank you for that feedback, and we can make sure we highlight that at our budget retreat and identify a more effective way to identify these resources. So we do have the recommendation from the ad hoc committee for the $25,000 for But Not Broken from this line item, $5,000 to the community resilience fairs. Do we have support for that motion? We move a motion. Commissioner Morales. So moved. Okay, there is a motion from Commissioner Morales. Is there support? Support. Okay, motion by Commissioner Morales, supported by Commissioner Ray, to allocate $25,000 to But Not Broken and $5,000 for the 3 remaining community resilience fairs.
Point of order.
Thank you so much. And clerk will work to get you a written motion. We appreciate your patience. So again, to restate, $25,000 for But Not Broken and $20,000 for the community resilience fairs. Is this stated correctly, commissioners? Thank you. All right, the motion is made by Commissioner Morales and supported by Commissioner Ray. Do we have further discussion on this portion of the allocation? Seeing none, clerk, will you please call a roll?
Commissioner Ray?
Yes.
Chair Stribbs?
Yes.
Vice Chair Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Wheeler?
Yes.
Commissioner DeLue?
Yes.
Commissioner Gisler?
No.
Vice Chair Pro Tem Hepler?
No.
Commissioner Mazer?
No.
Commissioner Morales?
Or.
6 yes.
Thank you, commissioners. That motion carries. Before I move forward from the item, so there's another $45,000 identified within the budget for gun violence prevention. Commissioner Ray, would it be your preference for ad hoc committee to meet for further discussion? Do you have any other recommendations we want to address? Recall ad hoc? Okay, so I would ask administration to provide support so the ad hoc committee can reconvene and discuss the remaining allocation there. Okay. Anything else? All right. Before I move us forward into public comment, I just want to make a clarifying. So we had discussion and motion for appointment of Deputy Administrator Cole to his position. We did not state an effective date, so it would be appropriate to move a motion at this time to state the effective date of Deputy Administrator's interim appointment as August the 15th, 2026. That's when Administrator ends his role, and then deputy administrator would become interim at that point. I'm sorry, who is our motion maker? Commissioner Wheeler, supported by Vice Chair Taylor. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Chair Stribbs,
Yes.
Vice Chair Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Wheeler,
Yes.
Commissioner DeLue,
Yeah.
Commissioner Gisler,
Yes.
Vice Chair Pro Tem Hepler,
Yes.
Commissioner Mazer,
Yes.
Commissioner Morales,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright.
Yes.
9 yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. Thank you, Council. All right, we will go to item number 14. This is another opportunity for the public to address the board in public comment. You have up to 3 minutes. Please share your name and where you're from. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Zachary Laster. I live in the city. I want to first off provide some feedback on the separating the administrator controller or keeping it together. I recall back in the day when you guys struggled to keep an administrator. How those jobs got combined was the controller was appointed as the administrator in somewhat of an emergency situation, and pretty much kept both jobs, and that's how that started. I'm not against or for. I really don't know much about that, but I just wanted to provide that bit of historical context. The second thing I want to say is I do recognize, and I want to point out too, like what was said by Commissioner Morales, is you guys don't have a lot of oversight of the Board of Commission, or the Road Commission yourself, besides appointment authority at this point. However, and I hate to bring up this nasty nuclear option that's been discussed a couple times over the last couple of years, you guys could dissolve the Board of Commission, the Road Commission, and make it a county department. That is well within your authority, and that's been discussed several times over the last couple of years due to issues with them not being responsive to the public. The last thing I wanted to discuss is I do recognize, as someone who is a stickler for Robert's Rules of Order, that discussion needs to go through the chair. However, the other half of that is discussion should never happen before a motion and a second. Everyone have a good night.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to make public comment? Welcome. Turn your, there, oh, not yet, it's still not on. There we are. Welcome.
All right. Thank you. Just a couple of things I want to make sure the Board of County Commissioners know about. The road commissioners do take this serious, and we have been listening to the residents, and we have been taking it into account, and we will continue to do so. So please be patient with us as we work through this. A couple things I just want to add to what's been going on with the Safe Streets for All. We also think that this will help with deer car collisions. We also think it'll help reduce power outages during storms. Currently, we spend about $1 million a year on trees and vegetation that does not go towards the roads. So we think this will help reduce that amount and actually get that road money to the roads to help with that. Another thing, when we reseed these areas, we do it with milkweed, which helps the monarch butterfly habitat. Another thing we do is we've been, something to consider is we are a growing county. Kalamazoo County is a growing county. There's not a lot of counties around the state of Michigan that can say that. And with that comes growing pains. I just want to point out none of these are city streets or subdivisions. These are high-speed, high-volume, rural primary roads that we're talking about. Another thing I want to talk about is a possible tree replacement policy. The last couple of meetings, our board has discussed replacing these trees that we're cutting down, 2 for 1, outside the road right away. 50 and 100 years from now, those will be full-grown trees, and that's our role, is to think about the future. So that's something else we've been thinking about as well. And we do have a forester on staff. That's something that people have often questioned about. And I'll just end with the fact that we had last year in 2025, 1,700 calls for trees. And as you saw in the presentation earlier, 14 of our 15 townships, this is their #1 calls, trees. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to make public comment? I'm seeing none. That moves us to the reports of the officers, bodies, administrator, and controller. So I appreciate community participation, the board's patience. We had, a number of complex issues important to the community to hear about and to discuss. We heard some public comment about options for board oversight and interaction with the road commission. Another of them that we discussed in the past is whether or not road commissioners should be popularly elected. And that's an opportunity for public then to have influence on whether or not they're heard in the development of processes and procedures. And maybe there would be a little bit more impetus of the road commission to gather that feedback and have the collaboration. I'm pleased to see that the dialogue is open and remains that way. But as Chair Pulowski shared with us, I think potentially the motivation is really those 1,700 calls for tree limbs. They can't spend the money on maintenance. And those are maintenance issues then for the road commission. And it's a significant portion of their budget. But I do think, it sort of cuts the nose to despite the face. We're having so many trees in the road because the weather is getting so violent, and the more we cut trees, the more violent our weather becomes. Incidentally, I had a car accident right in front of my house today. I had a distracted driver, a young man, who worked a long shift and fell asleep driving home and ran off of the road on a county primary road. I live on Alamo, and he ran headfirst into a telephone pole. And thank God he was not injured. If that telephone pole hadn't been there, he would have ended up probably in my driveway. Earlier this year, the other telephone pole in my yard was hit by a driver who fled that scene. But the trees weren't hit. And on my road, I have a huge, giant oak tree that the road commission already had to hear from me about when it got tagged for destruction in error. And, that tree could be potentially impacted by a design feature like this. My road, we've had multiple accidents off of that road because it's high rate of speed around the curve in particular. People hit another telephone pole over there all the time. So rumble strips would have waked that driver up maybe before he would have hit the post. It was just interesting that happened today, of all days. That's all I've got. Thank you. I talked so much tonight. I appreciate it. We will go on now to Vice Chair.
Thank you. First, I'd like to congratulate Deputy Cole on his appointment starting August 15th. Second, I want to talk to some of the residents that a couple of them, most of them have left. I need to reiterate, with the exception of Mr. Lassiter's comment about the nuclear option, which I don't think is going to be valid in this board, with the exception of that, we do not have any authority over the road commission. They are a separate authority that we appoint one member every 2 years. To say that we can tell them what to do is just like saying we can go into ISK or the airport and tell them what flights they need to do. That's not how we've separated and created the road commission. Secondly, I'd like to apologize to our employees. We spent the last meeting asking for input, asking for feedback from our employees on who we selected for the administrator process. We had 2 hours to review that in administration. It was given to us, I think it was put on Civic Clerk around 1 o'clock, 1:30, and then there was printouts here for us to read right before the meeting. We've criticized the road commission for H&D Avenue and not going for the number one issue that was done in their survey. Well, the number one thing, without even being prompted, and I've only had a few minutes to look through this, was the separation of the controller and administrator process. That was mentioned at least 5 or 6 times in the things that I was going through, and that wasn't even a question. People voluntarily gave that. So I just find it hypocritical that we can criticize the road commission for not going after their survey, and then we spend time asking our employees for input, asking external sources for input on how this process does. I will say this, I was prepared to vote for Terrell today. I was prepared to vote for him for the administrator position. I was not prepared to put personnel in front of structure. I don't think that is the best practice. I think we need to look at the structure of an organization before we decide who to put in what roles. And I think the structure needs to be changed. I also think that we need to have more of a reporting dialogue with our corporate counsel, more of a review process, more input from him, and more back and forth with our corporate counsel, because that is a trusted partner in how this board functions in our policy. I think that we need to get back to the basics. And back to the basics means looking at the structure of how this organization runs and not popularity contests. I think that we need to take our time as commissioners, understand the oath of office that we take relies solely in what we do for our citizens. And lastly, I want to commend the Road Commission. You have had a lot, and arguably some of it was warranted, a lot of criticism from the public for it's my way or the highway. I've decided this, and this is the way I'm going to go. The flexibility that you own to go down from 8,000 trees to 4,000 trees is a huge step in the right direction, in my opinion. I would recommend that you vote on it as some sort of policy recommendation. I know it goes through your internal sources first, but just a show of good public, I think you need to have a perfunctory vote just for the public's sake. But that being said, I'm proud of you showing flexibility to the public and listening to the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Pro Tem.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Vice Chair, for your comments. Thank you, Administration. Congratulations, Terrell, on your appointment. I would support all of you. I think you guys all do a great job. We have a great team. We do need, I think, some more communications. I agree that I really think that we should be separating these things until we have an opportunity to review them closer. There's a lot on our plate too, and I gather that a lot of us are working very hard. This whole board works very hard, and I appreciate everybody's insight and opinions. And I think we need to review these things as we move forward. We just recently had our 250th birthday over the weekend, and a lot went on. There was a lot of storms. Road Commission was busy. I know that many of our fire departments, myself included, were out helping cut trees up, so you didn't have to. We saved some for you. We didn't want to cut you out of the whole program. But we need to thank those folks that are out there, our employees, all of them, whether it be our administrators and our health departments and our public works people, that our grounds folks that take care of our buildings and make sure that the facilities are safe, and the work they do throughout and our housing departments, our health department, our courts, our sheriff's department, prosecutor's office, our defense folks, our clerks and treasurers that work diligently to serve our public. We need to thank those men and women that protect us here and abroad on the military side, our firemen, policemen, our ambulance folks out there are working tirelessly through these storms that we've had numerous of, and protecting our people. If you get an opportunity, thank them for their service. But keep in mind that we just celebrated 250 years. We aren't going to see another 250 years. None of us here are going to live another 250 years. But we should be thankful for the years that we have had, and the work that we're doing, I think, is monumental and making Kalamazoo a great place to live, work, and play. Thank you.
That's 2 points for Hepler. It's not the best joke, but I'm trying, people. All right. We are now on to administration updates.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair Pro Tem, Commissioners. On behalf of County Administrator Controller Dr. Kevin Catlin, Deputy County Administrator Cole, and I are pleased to provide the following administrative updates. Dr. Dr. Catlin is away this evening and attending to personal business and extends his apologies for not being present at tonight's meeting. He appreciates the board's understanding and looks forward to returning for the board's meeting on July 21st, 2026. Dr. Catlin asked that special recognition be extended to our law enforcement partners following the recent recovery of a deputy county administrator's vehicle. I would also like to personally extend that special recognition, as well as the vehicle was initially reported stolen to Kalamazoo Township Police Department with limited information available at the time of the report. Following additional information being provided to the Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Office, deputies were able to quickly track and locate the vehicle. The vehicle was recovered with approximately 3 hours of the initial report. Special thanks are extended to Sheriff's Chief Deputy Logan Bishop, Sheriff's Sergeant Jeremy Klein, the Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Office team, the City of Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety, and the Kalamazoo Township Police Department for their swift and coordinated response. Their professionalism, collaboration, and dedication to public safety are greatly appreciated, and I am also very much greatly appreciating having my vehicle back. I will turn this now over. We'll kind of go back and forth to Cole.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair Pro Tem, Commissioners. Jail Hygiene Services Initiative. Dr. Catlin continues to work with the Kalamazoo County Defender, KCDI, to enhance hygiene services available to individuals lodged at the Kalamazoo County Jail. This proposal would leverage KCDI's existing relationships and service providers to offer personal grooming services, including haircuts, to all individuals housed at the jail. The estimated annual cost of the program is expected to range between $5,000 and $8,000, depending on the varying needs associated with the different hair types and styles. KCDI's goal is to ensure equitable access to services for all individuals, regardless of hair texture and grooming needs. Should the board approve the necessary budget transfer, the Sheriff's Office and KCDI anticipate launching the program by the end of July. This initiative reflects a continued commitment to dignity, wellness, and supporting successful reentry outcomes for those in our custody. Next is an update regarding federal major disaster declaration for Michigan. On July 3rd, President Donald J. Trump approved a major disaster declaration for the state of Michigan in response to the severe flooding events that occurred earlier this spring. This declaration makes federal assistance available to eligible individuals and communities impacted by the disaster and may include assistance for temporary housing, home repairs, uninsured losses, and other recovery-related needs. The Michigan State Police Emergency Management and Homeland Security Division is expected to provide additional guidance to county emergency management agencies regarding the implementation of available assistance programs. Kalamazoo County's emergency management team is actively monitoring the situation and will work to ensure that residents are informed of any available resources. The county press release will be issued once additional information and application guidance becomes available.
This next update is for the Asylum Lake Preserve Agreement update. Work continues on the proposed long-term agreement concerning the management and stewardship of Asylum Lake Preserve. County and university representatives are continuing to refine the final draft agreement. The intent is to share a draft with both the Kalamazoo County Board of Commissioners and the Western Michigan University Management and Policy Council for feedback for formal consideration by the respective governing bodies. Staff are hopeful that a draft agreement will be available for review during the first board meeting in August. This effort represents an important opportunity to establish a long-term framework that preserves and protects one of our community's most treasured natural assets through continued partnership and shared stewardship.
Upcoming board meetings and budget discussions. As a reminder, several important board meetings are scheduled over the coming weeks as the county begins preparation for the fiscal year 27 budget process. Wednesday, July 22nd, special board meeting beginning at 2:30 to continue discussions on the county's long-range financial planning and budget priorities. Then followed by Monday, July 27th, special board meeting beginning at 2 p.m. to continue those discussions. And then Wednesday, the July 29th, board budget retreat beginning at 10 a.m. at the Kalamazoo County Expo Center, where the board will engage in strategic discussions regarding the fiscal year 27 budget, organization priorities, and long-term financial planning Commissioners are encouraged to review any materials distributed in advance to help facilitate productive discussions during those important budget discussions. And I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge also B&G's annual report, phenomenal report. And I really want to highlight the work that they've done. You all know about the work they did with the landing place, but I also want to uplift the custodial staff and the amount of work that they do each night for the county to keep the building safe and clean for employees coming to work each and every day. Also wanted to uplift the county clerk and register of deeds is inviting residents to observe the public accuracy test for August 4th primary election on Thursday, July 9th, beginning at 9 a.m. The public accuracy test is a required step before every election to verify that voting equipment accurately records and tabulates votes. The testing is open to the public and will take place at the Kalamazoo County Clerk's Office as well at each city and township clerk's office throughout the county. Once testing is successfully completed, voting equipment is cleared, secured, and sealed until deployment for the August primary election. And lastly, I'd be remiss if I did not thank you all for the deliberate discussion and consideration for both Deputy County Administrator Smith and I in this decision for temporary appointment as the interim county administrator and controller. We both stood ready to stand up to serve the county employees and the citizens. And we look forward to continue working together and make that happen. So public service is a baton race. So for however long you hold the baton, you just run that race and you run it hard. So look forward to getting to work and continue the county's business. Thank you.
And then I just have three more things. Please. I apologize. So I just wanted to highlight as well. So on June 25th, we had the best data center education panel that was at the Kalamazoo Valley Community College. We are very thankful for that site location, also working with Public Media Network, who was filming that session. That now is available on our website, and we will be posting it to our social channels. So for everyone that was not able to be in attendance to see the educational panel, that is going to be available online by tomorrow. And another thing I want to highlight is that we are about a little less than 1 month out to the Kalamazoo County Fair. So we have started doing posts on our socials. We have a lot of exciting activity going on. I would strongly encourage to look on our socials and help us share the message of the county fair happening August 4th through the 8th. And lastly, I do want to say congratulations to my teammate on the appointment to interim. As we navigate this transition with Dr. Catlin's departure, I truly look forward to maintaining the momentum and providing the stability and continuity that this organization needs and deserves. And continuing the good work being done by our employees for Kalamazoo County. And I know my teammate here is going to do a superb job. Look forward to supporting you.
Excellent. And I'll pine just on that happy note again, that focus on stability and continuity. And in my review of employee feedback, that was overwhelmingly what we heard from employees over and over through the feedback. And we appreciate them providing it to us, and we reviewed that. We will move at this time for commissioner comments. Anybody want to call the ball?
I'll do it.
Commissioner Wheeler?
Thank you, Chair. I just kind of want to reply to Vice Chair in that this isn't the end-all be-all when it comes to separating the controller administration position. I think that we could have some more dialogue and some more education. This is going to go back to what our employees did say is, again, stability, and I think that's what we provided. And again, like Chair Shrepp said, I appreciate the feedback we got from our employees and our electeds. It's very, very important throughout this process, but I just don't think in the interim it is the move to separate these two positions. I think that's something we can definitely look down the road as, we have time before, a month-ish before Dr. Catlin leaves, and then a little bit of time before we really have to get moving on what we want to decide to do. But I think education is the most important part, and making sure we make a good decision on that. I don't think we were prepared to make that decision tonight as a board. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Morales.
Thank you, Chair. So same sentiments when I'm looking through this, and I'll highlight even more when I get home. I think it was employee-wise, I don't think that they understand controller administrator. We always say administrator or Dr. Catlin. So when you see a lot of the input in there, it says administrator. But when you get to lead deputies in the court, like, you know, those in those higher positions or elected officials, that's where you kind of see that separation of controller and administrator. So of the employees, from what I read, they wanted continuity, stability, and someone who understands the process internal, that they can trust and have transparency. So I don't think it's a contest. I think that, you know, y'all have been with us a little while. I've been here since June 2021, you know, so we've all gone through that like neophyte process of what we wanted the county board to look like. So we have 6 months. Vice Chair, I'm sure you and you know, lead us the best way. You know, you think we should go, but we all have input. And Sarah, we are here to support you. You lean on us for what you don't know, and what you need clarification on, and just be ready, because I will blow your phone up. I am that commissioner, so that, you know, I can come and be prepared for things that I don't know, you know, like the budget and 101s, and, you know, well, not that I don't know, but need more clarification on. Road Commission, y'all once again had a tough night in our chambers. I don't believe in having 8,000 trees, but I don't have 8,000 trees in my neighborhood, you know, and there's some trees that I think needs to be gone. Now, we have trees laying in the road from the storm the other night that are still waiting to be picked up. So, you know, I'm not an arborist and I'm not an engineer, but I do hear, you know, when there's trees that have been here since the natives, that kind of strikes a nerve with me, you know, but I know it's for the safety. I do encourage collaborations with, you know, local law enforcement. I live at the bottom, like coming down Portage Road, and they're flying, and I know if they're flying down, they're flying up. I mean, there's been like 3 crashes into one of the wineries because they're coming off you know, that curb going 50, 60, 70 miles an hour. So I hope that y'all do the right thing, you know, listen to your community. We do our best, and we don't always make the right decisions. You can't please everybody. So thank y'all for being here. Thank you for the report. Thank you for the hard work that you do, and I really hope y'all figure it out. Other than that, yeah, 250 years, and I would be remiss if I wouldn't say Black folks only been free 100 and so of them. You know, we've been free, and we're still doing this hard work. And for those who, because we are elected officials, and, you know, we'll be on the ballot soon, if you need to spoil your ballot, please contact your local clerk's office with McBurrow jumping out the race. Just make sure if you've turned it in that you know that you can spoil that. And also, just with all the things that are going on in our current administration with the postal office, today I ran into an instance where a ballot had been mailed to someone else's address. And because I'm one that throws out mail that may not be mine, or I don't know, the postmasters run every 3, 4, 5 days. Luckily, it was across the street from my mom's house, and because I'm an elected official, I'm like, no, we got to take this to the person, and I notified our clerk, who hopefully notifies the city and whatever postmaster is in that area. So this is a detrimental time, you know, for us to make some crucial, profound decisions on, you know, how we're going to look in the next, you know, 10 or so years. So with that, I think I'm good. We don't have any more celebrations coming up till October for me.
Thank you. Commissioner Mazer.
Sure. Thank you, Road Commission. Outstanding presentation tonight. Thank you very much. And also congratulations, Deputy. Thank you. Thank you for your willingness.
Commissioner Gisler.
Thank you, Chair. I want to reiterate what Wendy just said about the road commission. Good presentation, good annual report. The physical report itself is terrific. And I'm pleased that there's some flexibility still amongst you to take the citizens' comments about trees into consideration. I don't know where it's going to wind up, but it apparently is something still under discussion, and I appreciate that. More importantly, I recommend that everybody vote against the child care millage. There's no reason we need another millage. We need child care, definitely, but I didn't even bring my prioritize sign with me tonight, but I'll not forget that again. We need to find that money somewhere in a $325 million budget, and if we can't, then we all ought to be thrown out. You'll agree with that, Zach. Next Monday, there'll be a meeting at of the Kalamazoo Citizens for Responsible Government at Mark's Diner on Romance Road in Portage. It'll be at 8:30, and our speaker will be Eric Stewart, who's the head honcho at the Career Connect facility that's been in operation now through the first year of trying to get kids to understand that you don't have to go to college to make a way in the world. It's the one out there at Sprinkle and I-94. And last but not least, Terrell, congratulations to you. Got big expectations, but I think you're the man for the job. Thank you.
Commissioner DeLue.
Thank you. I want to thank both Terrell and Lindy. Both of you willing to step up and take over and have confidence in either one of you. So, and you are a great team. I can see you both are going to work together. I appreciate that. And I want to thank the Road Commission too. I've been a commissioner 3.5 years, and from day one, all I heard was they don't budge. They're not flexible at all. They won't do anything that's this way or that's it. Well, I think you've proven them wrong. You are answering to this. You are answering to this at everybody all the time. But I just appreciate what you've done so far, and maybe there'll be further dialogue with them. But no longer can anybody say the Road Commission is not flexible. And lastly, I want to point out to naysayers out there, I'm assuming the quick recovery of your vehicle, the flat cameras had something to do with that. I'm just assuming. Oh, don't say that. Thank you. Thank you.
I'd be remiss, council had requested that I also make sure to ask that all of the commissioners please provide their conflict of interest statements if they have not done so already. So we would very much appreciate those to be submitted as requested by council. With that, we are adjourned.